Hello, and welcome to the WordPress for Beginners online course. My name is Brian. Thank you so much for joining our class. In this course, you will learn how to install and start using your own WordPress site or a blog. Why to use WordPress? You're probably wondering why not Wix or Weebly or other website building software, but WordPress? Well, WordPress is by far the most popular open source content management system used by approximately 75 million websites. WordPress is free to install, deploy, and upgrade. Thousands of plugins and templates power a flexible and simple interface, which reduces development costs and deployment time. And, most importantly, WordPress sites tend to rank higher than others in search engines, as it is written using standard compliance, high-quality code, and produces semantic markup. This makes Google and other search engines love WordPress. Now that we can clearly see the benefits of the WordPress, let's get started with our first lesson. Welcome back. In today's lesson, we will learn how to install your very first WordPress site. Our first step in this case would be to access our domain. For demonstration purposes, we will use a domain onlyonepenny.com. So, once you do that, you will log in with your username and password, which you should have gotten in your welcome email from your hosting company. Basically, when you sign up for a hosting platform like HostGator for WordPress or Bluehost, you should fill in your details, buy the hosting service, and get a welcome email with login details. If you're not sure what hosting is, I would say managed WordPress hosting is a concierge service where all technical aspects of running WordPress site is managed by the host. This includes security, speed, WordPress updates, daily backups, website uptime, and scalability. Now, once we do that, we can log into our cPanel and scroll down where we see WordPress. So we click on that. And then you're going to see right here a blue button that says Install. We click on that. Now, we want to install the WordPress blog, right? We will do that on the root of this domain for demonstration. In this case, we use onlyonepenny.com, and that's it. That's where you will see your blog. Then, you can see here option called In Directories. We're going to leave that blank. However, remember if we don't want this blog to use up the whole domain name, but instead would be onlyonepenny.com/blog, then you would put the word blog right here. But our blog will use up the whole domain, so in this case, we leave this blank. Now, right here, where it says database name, we suggest you to add just a couple of random letters here. For example, I'm going to write PC here instead of WP. What that does is it makes it a little bit harder for hackers to hack our site in the future. WordPress stores its information in a database. Therefore, a database will need to be created. So, same thing right here where it says table prefix. We change that to PC as well. So now, what we do here is where it says site name, you can call it your company name instead of leaving it as default my blog. So I'm just going to call it 1 penny, then get hosting for 1 penny. Of course, you can create more of an attention-grabbing title than this. Down here, where it says admin username, you want to make sure you don't leave this as admin, because that also is a security issue and makes it easier for other people to hack into your site. So, let's name it also 1 penny for the username, because the site is onlyonepenny.com. Actually, you wouldn't want to use that as a name, as it is similar to domain. You'd want to use something like your full name with no spaces instead. That will be more secure. But for demonstration purposes, I will leave it this way, and then for the password again, you want to use a secure password. So, what we normally use is LastPass, and then we'll click on Generate Secure Password. LastPass is one of the best password managers and generators, and Vault for free today. LastPass makes and remembers your passwords, so you don't have to. As you can see here, it gives a nice long crazy password like that. And so all we do is copy and paste it like this. Then, when it comes to your email, you're going to put your own email. In this case, I'm going to leave this black because it can be changed at a later stage. Then we scroll down here, and then you're going to see Limit Logging Attempts option. You want to click on that because if you don't do this, then when somebody uses software to hack in your site, it will make it very easy for them. But if you limit logins, what will happen is each user will get a limit of 3 logging attempts, and then they have to wait for 10 or 20 minutes before they can try again, which is a very good way to help secure your WordPress blog. So, once we do that, we simply come down here and we click on Install. Now, since we've done that, you can see it only takes about a minute to install a WordPress. Next, we can see that our blog is actually installed. If you want to go into the back end of this blog, then you should use the other link where you can log in order to get into the back door or the admin area. Installing a theme. Now that you have a WordPress site installed, what you can see, your blog comes with a default theme installed. So in today's lesson, we'll be showing you how to change your WordPress theme into a desired one. Again, what we see here now is the default theme, and this is how it looks like now. However, we definitely want to change it so that it doesn't look like every other WordPress site out there, right? So, what we're going to do is over here where it says Appearance, click on Themes, and then click on Add New. In order to install a good-looking theme, you would most probably have to buy one in Envato.com. It is a marketplace for WordPress themes and plugins. However, you can always pick one up for free. For example, you can see you can pick one of these here. So, what you do is just click on Preview, and if you like the theme, just click to install it. By the way, all of these themes are free versions. Then, click on Activate, and just like that, when we come over here, we refresh our blog and see it already has a different theme. Now, if we want to use a theme that we've purchased, which is always going to be the safer bet, this way you won't have to worry whether people will hack your site because you will have a pro version, right? Then we click on Upload Theme. Next, click on Browse, and in this case, the theme we're going to use for demonstration purposes is called Mindful. It's in a zip file, so I can click on that and then click Open and Install Now, and then Activate. Next, we simply come over here and we refresh the page. As you can see now, it has the new theme in there. So that's it. That's how easy it is to install a theme on WordPress. Installing a plugin. A plugin is a piece of software containing a group of functions that can be added to a WordPress website. They can extend functionality or add new features to your WordPress. So, what we're going to do next is we're going to come over here in our dashboard, and you'll see right here under Plugins a button called Add New. So we click on that. Our next step is either search for an existing plugin in the WordPress directory, or we can upload our own plugin. For example, if you've bought one from a marketplace like Envato.com, you can then upload it here. So, in this case, we'll click Search Plugins and we're going to install WP Hide Post Plugin. We simply type that name here and then we hit Enter. When you'll see the results that come up, all you have to do is simply click on Install Now and hit OK. Then, once the plugin is installed, it will ask you to activate it. So, we activate it, and now you can see that this plugin is installed. But, let's assume you've already purchased your own plugin and want to install that. In this case, we would click on Upload Plugin, and we'd click Browse, and then we would search for that plugin in our files. Then we click on Open and Install Now. Once that's done, we click on Activate Plugin. So that's it. That's how easy it is to install a plugin on WordPress. Remember, WordPress plugin is something that adds new functionality to your WordPress site or extends existing functionality on your site. No matter what kind of site you're running or what niche it belongs to, there are certain plugins that you'll want to install. For example, you can install Yoast SEO. This is by far the most popular SEO plugin in the WordPress landscape. Not only can Yoast SEO help you improve your SEO, it can even analyze your content's readability. So, definitely find that one and install it right away in the same way we've installed demonstrative plugins here. Create a page. Welcome back. Creating a WordPress page is very similar to creating a post in WordPress. Just remember that pages are intended for static content. To get started adding a new page to your WordPress site, you can click on New in Options here and find Pages there. Or find the Pages menu in the WordPress dashboard navigation menu and click Add New. Now, once we click on that, we're going to type in the title, and I'm just going to say the title is Contact. In this way, we would be creating a contact page. Then, over here is where we will put your actual contact information. For demonstration purposes, let's just say, call us or click below to get in touch. Once we do that, we simply click on Publish. Then, you see the page is created, so we can click on View Page. Now, as you can see, we have our contact page live. You can create your own contact page with content like your contact information, a form, a map, and hours of operation. Remember, contact page is a very important page and are typically one of the most visited website pages. The form on a Contact Us page should be short and sweet, and we recommend including the following fields: first name, last name, company, email, what questions, and this is optional. These fields will help you understand who is contacting you, do a little research on the person, and possibly qualify the lead. You could also add phone number, website, or any other custom fields that are specific to your business. Also, explain why someone should contact you. If you're not giving visitors strong reasons why they should contact your business, then they probably won't. On the Contact Us page, you need to explain why people should contact your business and describe how you can help them solve their problems. Create a post. Great. Now we know how to create a static page. Let's look at how to create a new post. So, just like with creating pages with posts, we come over here and click on Add New. So in this case, we can name as Today's News. We would put our text down here. Then we click Publish. Once we do that, we can click on View Post, and we can see there it is. Blogging can enhance your online visibility. If you post a blog per day or per week on a consistent basis, search engines would love you. Remember, every time you write a blog post, it's one more indexed page on your website, which means it's one more opportunity for you to show up in search engines. So, I am glad you know how to post a blog now. Let's continue to our next lesson. Stop spam. Hi, and welcome back. In this lesson, we will look at how to protect your site from spam. So, the way to do this is with a plugin that's actually already installed by default when you set up a WordPress site, and what it's called, Akismet. So, when you click on Activate the plugin, you're going to see this large blue button that says Activate your Akismet account, and when you click on that, you're going to see your API key. Why do you need Akismet? Well, comment moderation is a time-consuming task, and Akismet can save you hours. Akismet will catch spam comments before it lands in your moderation queue as pending. This allows you to focus your energy on moderating comments by real users. Lucky for you, Akismet is super easy to set up and use and is offered using a freemium pricing model, so the plugin itself is free to download. Now, once you set up Akismet on one WordPress blog, you don't have to do it again. You can simply copy and paste the API key right here. But the first time you do it, you have to click on this button and then click on Get an Akismet API key. And next, what it will do is they'll ask you for some information. So, let me quickly fill that up. Then, we click on Sign Up. As you can see here, Akismet offers you 3 different pricing options. One of them where you need to name your own price, which is a personal plan, the freemium version I've mentioned just now. Then, there's one for $5 or €5 in Europe, which is a business plan and enterprise plan for $50 or €50. Okay, so we click on personal one and sign up, and we slide it all the way down to $0 per year. Put in our first name and last name, and we click on Continue. And that's the key we need here. We simply copy that, and we come down here and we paste it in here and click Use this key. So, now that we've added our key, we simply come over here and click on Save Changes. And that's it. Now our account will automatically be protected from spam. Header Footer Code. Welcome back, guys. In today's lesson, I'm going to show you how to add a code to the header or footer of a WordPress page. Now, the reason that you may have to do this is because there's some kind of a script that needs to be added. The script can be a Facebook pixel to track your ad performance. So, what you can do is you can download this free plugin, and it's called OH AdScript Header Footer. What you have to do is simply do a search for that plugin, and when you find it, then click Activate. When you come over here and we click on New Page, then what you'll see is right below the text editor area, you'll see our plugin, which is OAdScript. So, if a script, whether it's a pop-up or a redirect or Facebook pixel, says put this line of code in the header, you do that. You would simply put it in this box. If it says put it in the footer, you would put it in this box. And what's great about this plugin is that WordPress recognizes that the script is supposed to be here, and it won't alter it, so that's normally a big problem that has been resolved with this plugin. Create a menu. Hi there. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to create a menu. So, first, if we go over here and we click on View the Site, and we're going to see there's a menu up here right now, and this up here by default. What we can do is we can come over here to where we see Appearance Menu, and look, there's the menu structure. This is the default one, and what the problem with this is, there are going to be some pages that you maybe don't want to display. Let's say maybe you are promoting content for members only, and you have pages for members only. If you have a membership site, of course. Maybe there are split tests for cat lovers over dog lovers or whatever it is. But you want to have more control, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to click on Create a New Menu button, either there or here. Then we're going to call this one Top Menu, just because it is on the top of the page and it's easy to remember. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to click on Manage Locations. So, as the main navigation menu, we're going to pick the top menu we've just created and then Save Changes. Now that we have that set up, we come over here to Menus or Edit Menus. Either one will take us to the same place. And the one that we're working on right now is this one that says Top. So, all we can do is we can say remove this and then remove that. Remove all unnecessary stuff. Now, since we've done that, we just save the menu and now we come back here. These single digits here should be gone. So there we go. Next, just refresh that. Now, let's say we wanted to group some of these so that there won't be so many options in one place. What you can do is you could say move this over a little bit and this will now be right underneath video section. Then we'll say we'll add here downloads as well as emails. And then we'll put these couple underneath here like that. So now when we come over here and we click refresh, you'll see that this looks much better and much shorter. Can you see that some of these are different colors? And the reason is the ones that are white instead of gray by default have these in drop-down menu. You can actually create a chain of drop-down menu. You just say I want this to be underneath this and this one to be underneath that. Then Save Menu. You can do this as many times as you want, and then simply refresh it. You'll see that now we've got what's called nested menus. So that's it for creating a menu. Adding an image. Welcome back. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to add an image to a WordPress post or page. In this case, I've created a page and called it Image. As you can see, it's just a blank page, and if you go and click on View Page, you'll see there's no images or anything there. Right now, there's no text on the page either. So, if I just want to add an image, I click Add Media, and then Upload Files and select Files. You simply go to your Pictures file and pick a sample picture and click Open. Next, over here on the right side, you'll see that there's a few different settings options. One of them is alignment. You can set your image to the left or center or right or none. In this case, we'll just select None and then see option of linking. We can either link to the actual picture of the photo itself, or an attachment page, or a custom URL, where it could be an affiliate link or link to somebody else's site or none. And we'll click on None right now. Then for size, we can do full size, large, or medium, or a thumbnail. And we'll do medium for now and click Insert into Page. Now, when we click on Publish, we can come back over here and we refresh the page. You'll see now there's a picture over here. See how that's easy to add an image? Same thing works for adding an image to your post. So I click on New Post and name it Image for demonstration purposes, and then we click on Add Media. Now, you'll notice that in the second tab in the media library, it has this image already in there. So instead of clicking Upload File, we can click on this tab for Media Library, select it, and then click Insert into Post, and only now hit Publish. Then we click View Post. You can see that image is in there now. If you click on it, as you can see, it will show just that image up close. Remember, if it's a really large image, it can take a second or two for it to load. So that's it. That's how easy it is to add an image. Great. We've done a great deal of job. Now, I'm going to show you how to align an image. So all I'm going to do here is create a page. I'll call it Image Test, and we'll click Add Media. In this case, we'll just put in our handy button here. Now, you see there's an option here where you're going to add media for the alignment to do left, center, or right, but sometimes you already have your image on your page. So I'm going to click on option None and leave all this just by default, so I can show you how to do it on the page. Now, all we do is we click once on the image, and then just like we did in the earlier video with our text, we can click Align Right, Align Left, or Center. Let me add some sample text here to show you how it works. If we want this image to be to the right of this text, for instance, then we should first click Align Right, this little line that you see right here. It lets you know where it is. So, in other words, if we have a couple of paragraphs like this, and we want our image to be more in the middle, we can click and drag it so that this little line shows up right here. Now, we've got it aligned to the right based on this second paragraph. So that's how easy it is to set it up for the alignment for an image. Add links. Hi there. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to add a link. We're back here on our sample page, and what we are going to do is, I'm going to select all of it simply by right-click and select all and just delete it all. I'm going to type in words. For example, click here to visit Google. Now for the words, click here. I want to make that a link. So what I do is I click and highlight that word. Then I come up here to where you see this icon where it says Insert/Edit Link when you hover over it. So I click on that, and then I simply put it in here, what we want for our link to be. Now, if we want, we can add a title, for example. Say, this is Google. And then we can also click this box right here to say Open Link in a new tab or window. Now, unless if you want people to click on a link that's within your site and they're just simply going from one page to another one, then it's a good idea to check this box. Otherwise, what will happen is, let's say you have a reference about an article, for example, about dog breeding, and you say click here to see the Wikipedia about dogs. When a visitor leaves your site and opens Wikipedia in new tab, after reading that article, they close the tab, but your site is still there. Now, if you want to link to something that's already in your site, you simply click on right there where it says Link to Existing Content, and then pick whichever one, and it will link to that page. And then once we're done, we're going to go and close that because we're linked to Google right now. Once we're done, either way, we click Add Link, and as you can see now, it's a different color and it's underlined. Then we click Update, and then we go and click View Page. And we can see now it says click here to visit Google. And if we click on it, then Google opens up in a new tab. Email link. Now, I'm on a page where we've created a new page and I put that text here. It says link here to email me. I also have a button to show you how to do this with an image, as either way it's going to be the same result. What we're going to do is we're going to highlight the word that we want to be our link. So in this case, we come over here and we click Insert Link, and we're going to paste our email address. Now, the thing is, if you just do this and you set this up as a link, but it will not send an email. So what you have to do is you have to come over here just before the email address and put mail to colon. That's it. So I'm going to copy this whole thing here, and now we hit Add Link. That's all we have to do to set up an email. Now, if we want to add an email to an image like this, we do the exact same steps. We simply click on the link and we paste it email to colon, and then that going to be our email address. As you can see, there is no space or anything there, and then simply add link and update. That's it. Permalinks. Next, we're going to show you how to change your permalinks. The URLs of the content you publish on your WordPress website are known as permalinks. Permalinks are what people enter into their browser address bar to view one of your pages. They are the permanent link to a single page. They are also what search engines and other websites use to link to your website. Now, if you remember earlier, we created a post, and when you click on it, you see this URL next to it. It shows the URL, and then right after that, it says P equals to 38. This is a lot harder for people to recognize, and it's also harder for the search engines to recognize what exactly this is. And of course, that would greatly affect people sharing your content as well as people finding your content through sites like Google. So, what we want to do is simply make this much easier for people to remember and clear for the search engines to understand what this page or post is about. So, next, click on Change Permalinks and then come down here to where you see post name and click on that, and then click Save Changes. Now, if we come back here, we click on Update, and you see that it's changed now to what the page is actually about. So in this case, it's called Today's News, which is much easier for people to understand or to remember, as well as for Google and the other search engines to know what the page is about. Change text. Now, we're going to show you how to change text, whether it's on a post or a page. So in this case, we'll pick Pages, and then we'll pick our sample page. Then we're going to click on Edit. Let's say we're happy with this text here, and we simply wanted to change this first sentence to say something like, "This is some new text." And so all we have to do is just highlight it. If we want to add more text, but say it's at the bottom of the page, we simply hit Enter and say something like, "This is more good text." So, once we do that, we click on Update and View Page, and we can see it says this is some new text. And at the bottom it says this is some more good text. That's how easy it is. Align text. And now, I'm going to be showing you how to align text so text would look good on a post or a page. I've put some sample text here for demonstration purposes, and by default, it's going to be aligned to the left. But what we want to do is we want to highlight whatever text you want to change. Of course, that's the alignment in this case. I'll just highlight all of it, and then we come over here, and we can see when you hover over these different images can be aligned left or aligned centered and aligned right. So if we click Align Right and see it is there, then click Align Center, you'll see it gets centered. You'll see that everything is to the right now. Line breaks. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to do line spacing in WordPress. If you look at this page right here, I just have sample text. I'm going to go ahead and click Update. And then we'll come over here and click View Page, and you'll see it has 2 paragraphs. Now with WordPress by default, this normally works just great. If we add, say, some more content and hit Enter, it shows up like that, and it's got that space, right? Well, what happens sometimes is when you add an image, or you add a button, or you add other different kinds of code, then WordPress will not react the way that it's supposed to. WordPress can give you too much space or too little space. So what we can do is we can go over here to Plugins, then click on Add New, and we can add a great free plugin, which is called Simple Breaks. With this Simple Breaks plugin, we can create our own breaks. as it let us customize the size of our actual space or breaks. So let's go ahead and go back over here. We're going to click on Visual now, and let's say we wanted this to be a bigger space. First, of course, update this page because it doesn't show the new install. So there it is right here. So let's say we wanted to do a bigger space right here. A good example of this is sometimes if you put a YouTube video right in here or a Vimeo into your pages, sometimes the text will be crammed right next to it. So what you can do is you can come over here and you can click on blank space, and then you can pick the size. So we'll do 30, which is a large space, and click OK, and then update, and then we'll see we'll have a bunch of space here, which we weren't able to do before. In other words, you couldn't do that without this plugin, because if you just hit enter a few times with WordPress and go from visual to text, a visual WordPress will get rid of it because it will think you made a mistake, because it thinks more than one line break is a mistake. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it with this particular plugin, let's say we wanted a line break right here. We just come over here and we click on line break. As you can see, what appears is this bracket with BR and close brackets. This means we'll put a break there. So now if we hit update, we'll see about halfway through here as they give us a single break. Now, if we wanted this to be bigger, instead of a single break, have it to be a double one, we can say, I want it to be 10, and hit update, and then come over here and refresh. Now it's a bigger break. So this is a really simple software, really simple plugin, but at the same time, it's very helpful if you post a lot on WordPress, and you need to tweak how much space is in between the different paragraphs. Add media. In this case, I'm going to be showing you how to add a media file to your website blog. First, let's go here where it says New, and there's a drop-down menu. We're going to click on Media, and we're going to click on Select Files, and I'm going to pick this download.zip from my desktop and click on Open. Now, that's all it takes to upload a media file, and this could be for a lot of different reasons. It could be an audio file, or a video file, an image file, or in this case, a zip file. For example, say I wanted to give somebody a download link, then this is how I do it, of course. Now, the way to know where this download link is by simply clicking on Edit, and then right over here, where you see the file URL, this is the actual link to that download file, its location. Add video. Next in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to add a video to your WordPress blog. Embedding a video is essentially a two-step process. First, you upload your video file to a third-party video hosting service like YouTube, Vimeo, or Wistia. Then, you copy a small bit of code that they furnish to you and paste it into your post or page on your own WordPress site. Now, what I did is I came over here to YouTube and picked the video that I wanted to add, and we come down here to where it says Share, and then we click on Embed. Now, depending on the size that you want, you can pick whichever size from down here, or you can do a custom size. Normally, this 640 by 360 is fine. Click on that. We leave all these unchecked most of the time, and we simply right-click and copy for this code. Now, we come back over here. If we create a new page and we embed video right here, we have two different tabs. There is a visual and text, and we want to click on text, and then click within this box, and then right-click and paste our code. Now, we come over here and then hit Publish, and then we click on View Page. Now, we can see our video has now been added, right? So that's how easy it is to add a video, and it works exactly the same way, whether it's a post or a page. Create a widget. Now, in this last lesson, we're going to talk about widgets. A WordPress widget is a small block that performs a specific function. You can add these widgets in sidebars, also known as widget-ready areas, on your web page. WordPress widgets were originally created to provide a simple and easy-to-use way of giving design and structure control of the WordPress theme to the user. So, if we come over here and we look at this, we see on the home page here, we've got recent posts, archives, categories, and meta. Then come over here, and we can see we've got search recent posts, archives, categories, and meta. So if we want to get rid of any of these, all we have to do is simply drag it away. And now if we come back here and we refresh the page, you'll see that those are gone now. Those were widgets. Now we can replace those widgets with new ones, and we can pick from any of these. So let's say I really need to have that meta widget and I want to rename it to the admin area. Then hit save now, and we come over here, you'll see it's back. Now let's say we wanted to add one widget above this for options. All we can do is we can come over here and click on text and drag it up here and set it below what we wanted above it. And we can say join our newsletter, and then right here we would put our option forms. Now, I'm just going to say I need names and emails. So actually, it can be a form. You need to grab a little bit of code from a software like MailChimp, Aweber, or GetResponse. But for now, I'm just going to put this as it is. If you want to add widgets in other areas, that's okay. You can add it on a page sidebar, a homepage sidebar, or even to a post sidebar. These are all done the same way. And then also you can add widget to a footer sidebar. So let's say we want to do add a widget of archives, and then we'll say we need categories to put it right below it. Now close it, and then we'll add one more meta just for the demonstration purposes. Let's call it admin area again. So now we come over here and we refresh. You're going to see at the bottom of the page here, we have 3 new footer areas. We could always add one more and refresh it. So this particular theme, and you'll find that most themes can offer up to 5 footers. So it's a nice look to add those widgets there. And you always have that option to add them in the footer or the sidebar, or specifically to the homepage footer, or just the pages of the site where you need them. So that's all from me. I guess your WordPress blog is fully functional now. I wish you good luck and all the success with your WordPress blog. Thank you for your dedication and completing this course. Number 2. In this video, we're going to talk about the main focus. You see, because WordPress on page SEO is such a broad term that literally covers a lot of areas of your website, both the front end, such as the tags, the content, and all of that, and the back end, like sitemaps, the XML sitemap, and all that. Really, we need to discuss the main focus of this course. It is actually to help you make your front end of your WordPress site more SEO friendly. That's our main focus. And what that means is we're going to focus specifically on how to make your overall WordPress site's structure, your posts, your pages more search engine friendly. So the goal is that when Google and other search engine robots come to your site, they will know straight away what your site is all about. Now, by robots, what I mean is that Google usually will send out computers, which are called bots, and they'll come to your site and scan it and try to figure out what your site is all about. The truth of the matter is that too many people skip over this step because it is an exciting task to do, but it is also a crucial step for success. But most people are too focused on external SEO. The reality is that there are a lot of front-end factors that you must do on all of your sites. So by skipping out on these fundamental steps and just focusing on things like backlinking, you're really going to miss out on a lot. Because when Google comes to your site, and if your site is not search engine friendly, and you've just got a lot of backlinks, then yes, you do have a lot of votes that your site might be good. But at the same time, it's like, okay, this is a popular site, but what is the site all about? You will confuse search engines. So, even though this step seems basic, it's very often much of a skipped step. However, once you get in the habit of implementing on-page SEO factors, you'll actually be ahead of most of your competitors. And the good news is that most people don't do on-page SEO. And If you're doing this, you're going to get ahead of them, right? So keep in mind, in this course, we're not going to focus on backlinking or any external SEO strategies. Instead, we will focus on internal SEO. So now you have a clear idea of what we're going to talk about in this course. Let's move on to our next lesson and discuss the 5 important factors that all of your posts, your pages, and your content, your tags, your URL structures should contain. Please follow me. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 important factors that every WordPress SEO needs. Today, we'll have a quick overview of the 5 factors, and then, of course, the next few videos will dive into every single one of these factors. But before we can really discuss them in depth, you need to have a broader bird's eye view of them. So, before we jump into the 5 factors that your WordPress site should have, or even your non-WordPress site should have, as they'll definitely work on those too, it's important to know a few things first. The first thing is you need to have a general idea of your main keyword, the one you're going to rank on. And number 2, you need to have a list of specific keywords that branch off of that main keyword. Now, don't worry if you don't have that now, as I'm going to give you step-by-step techniques to help you figure that out. Now, another thing I want to mention here is in general, a lot of people commit this big mistake of implementing these 5 factors without a clear plan of attack. And that's why I'm breaking things down for you and dedicated the whole lesson for it. There's a reason for everything, you know. So remember, if there's no clear plan and the website owner simply creates content in an area with little or no traffic, and then they're not ranking on any specific keyword, it's just them to blame. While committing this mistake, they might even be ranking on keywords that have really nothing to do with their website. And this is a lot of time wasted traffic, right? So, that's why I'm not jumping straight into details first, and instead breaking things down so that it becomes clear and you can see the plan from bird's view. So, you will have a better chance to succeed. Now, we're not going to focus, like I said, on keyword research, but we do recommend that you check out the suggested keywords. Where can you find suggested keywords? Well, Google has what we call suggested keywords embedded into their search. Amazon.com also has a list of suggested keywords. This is super easy feature. You can literally find the main keyword and a list of specific keywords within a few seconds with this system. So here's what I want you to do. You can do this by going to Google, for example, and typing in your general keyword. So you'll notice that when you do a search, Google will suggest keywords. Now, in order for the keywords to appear in the suggested box, the keywords should be gone through a ton of search for those keywords. So, in other words, as a high volume of people searching for this keyword, when I type in the same keywords, for example, let me search for survival kit. Then I get other Google suggested keywords like survival kit lists, ideas, survival kit Amazon, food, and backpack. Now, there's another way of doing this. If you type in the keyword and you press enter, then what's going to happen when you scroll all the way down to the very bottom, you're going to see a list of words. So if you scroll all the way down the bottom after you made that search, you're going to find additional keywords right here. As you can see, these are additional keywords, things like military survival kits, survival kit list, best survival kit food, items, etc. As you notice, these are not only different keywords to the search we've made, but here we find out also different types of survival kits for different scenarios and different settings, so that gives us an idea. These are ideas on what we can write an article about when choosing a topic on survival kits, or military survival kits, or wilderness survival kits. So these could be totally different articles. So, now that you have a basic understanding of basic keyword research, let's move on to our 5 important factors. These are number 1, the URL structure which includes the domain name and the category name, the file name, even the page name. These are part of one URL, as this is what shows up in the address bar at the very top. Whenever you go to any website, you see the domain name, right? Then the page name, and all that in the search bar at the top where the URL is. That is the URL structure. Now, the URL structure is very important because it tells Google and other search engines if you are a brand or you are targeting a specific keyword, or what is your website is about. And that's just one element of the 5 factors. There's a lot of other elements as well. Number 2, we have the body tag structure, which contains basically everything on your post or your page. In terms of content, so this contains both written text that you use in your posts and pages, and there's more than just slapping a bunch of content for everyone to see. There's a lot that goes into this. Don't worry about it for now, as we're going to show you and break things down for you later on in this course. So, you have a better idea of what you should include in your body tag structure. Number 3, we have image optimization. What this means is you'll be making your images more search engine friendly. So just like body text, when it comes to images, Google and other search engines, they are not going to know right off the bat what these images are. So you need to do your best to help them figure out what the images are all about. Now, there are ways that Google will figure out eventually what your images are all about. So don't try to game the system. For example, if you name an image, let's say a military survival kit, the way they figure out if that image is legit or not is oftentimes they'll rank you in the Google image search engine. If somebody types in, let's say, military survival kit, and people see your image and they click on that image, then Google have a better idea of your image. So, don't try to game the system in naming image something that it's not. Name it what it is, so when somebody looks for the image, they're going to find it and they're going to click on it, and that will show search engines you're honest, and it is going to help you in the long run. In fact, beyond that, there's a few more steps you'll need to take, apart from just name it right. Also, remember, image search engine could be great, as you can actually get a lot of traffic from that search engine, but we will talk about it later on. And of course, we have factor number 4, which is title optimization. Basically, it's about how to make your title search engine friendly, because the reality is that your titles do show up in the search engine, so you definitely need to do this right. Otherwise, you're going to attract the wrong person. Number 5 is meta optimization, and it is the same thing here. Metadata that will show up underneath the title in the search engines need to be optimized too. So you want to make sure that you attract the right traffic. Now, we talked about the 5 important factors here in brief. Next, let's dive into every single one of these 5 factors in more depth. We're going to talk about the URL structure. Now, this is something that has changed slightly in the last decade, but it hasn't changed drastically. Now, before we discuss what you should use in terms of a domain name and your URL structure, let's discuss why this is important. You see, when Google and other search engines try to figure out what your website is all about, they look at your website as a whole. They're not just going to look at URL structure or your domain name or your categories or your page name. They're going to look at everything as a whole. Plus, in addition to that, they're going to look at how people interact with your content and if the content is legitimate. Now, part of that is what appears in the URL. A search engine friendly URL structure can actually go a long way. Not only will it help the search engines figure out what your page is all about, it's also going to help a human visitor understand what the page is about. And that means that keywords still matter, but you have to be careful not to keyword stuff your URLs. And by keyword stuff, what I mean is density. When you're putting too many of the same keywords in the same area. Don't do that. And I'm going to show you in just a minute why, if you use certain domain names, that can have a drastic impact. So, let's talk about domain names. You're probably thinking, what should you name your domain name? Should you use an exact match domain, meaning that you will have a main keyword in the domain? Or should you use a brand name? Well, there's a big debate that using a keyword in the domain name will actually get you ranked higher. That actually worked well back in the day, and sometimes it still works today, and there's really no right or wrong answer for this. Literally, at the end of the day, we don't know, it's all up to the search engine. There are so many exact match domains out there, and so many people using their main keywords in their domain names that it actually might help, or perhaps might not. But remember, with SEO, you need to make sure that you don't look at one element, but instead, you look at the website as a whole. So then, having your main keyword in a domain is not going to be as important. So yes, bestsurvivalkit.com can work, but we can't really say for sure. However, I might say, if you haven't noticed, Google really likes brands. Search engines love brands. And the reason why they love brands is because brands are here to stay. If you look at a brand that becomes a culture and it's got an impressive following, then Google will love it, right? Search engines love brands. They normally have a URL like this, yourbrandname.com. Now, Google is quite smart, and it has robots that know that people are trying to keyword stuff or game the system in terms of domain names. However, till now we've had success with brand names, so we lean towards that as a long-term view. But then again, exact match keyword domain names work well for some other people as well. So we can't say for sure if it's not going to work for you. But now, let me reveal to you why using a brand name will actually help you, especially in preventing you from creating duplicate or keyword stuffing in the URL structure. So, for example, the URL structure normally looks like this: www.yourdomain.com/category/yourpage. And that your page thing could be anything, depending on how you go about naming that. And I'll show you this in a minute in WordPress. Now, we're just talking about the basic fundamentals. So, let's say for example that you're trying to rank on keyword red shoes. The problem with naming your domain name redshoes.com is this. Let's say for example that you have several categories: red shoes, blue shoes, yellow shoes, and brown shoes. But your domain has that one category, that's the red shoes, and you also have a product called Big Red Shoes. It ends up looking like this: www.redshoes.com/red-shoes/big-red-shoes. So you see what I mean here? You've got red shoes, and red shoes 3 times in a row in the same URL. That's not a good sign, because that's keyword stuffing. To search engines, it looks like you're trying to game the system when in reality you might not be. But let's say for example that your brand name is Fast Feet. Then it will make more sense with the product name Big Red Shoes. Now, I know that's not a great name, but hold on. It will look something like this: www.fastfeet.com/big-red-shoes. So, Big Red Shoes belong to the product name, and Fast Feet is the brand name, or the e-commerce store, or the local store. So by doing that, now you see red shoes only shows up once. That's why have a brand name in your domain instead of main keyword. You have the potential of selling other things. If you just do redshoes.com, you're stuck with only red shoes, right? But with Fast Feet as a brand name, you could cover shoes, you could cover slippers, you could cover socks, you can cover a variety of different products. You could even cover lifestyle of running exercise shoes and all that. So branding not only help you with your URL structure, but it will also help you diversify and expand what your website could potentially be about. Do you see what I mean here, and why brands actually help you avoid keyword stuffing? Now, another tip is to make sure that your URL is no longer than 90 characters long. Okay, so first thing first. Go ahead and log into your WordPress site. And then, what you want to do is access the permalink option to make sure that your URL structure is searchable and search engine friendly. So, what you need to do is go to the left-hand side, go to Settings, then choose Permalinks, and then we'll get to here. Now, at this point, you're going to want to choose Post Name. Click on Post Name, then click Save down here, and that's it. So what this is going to do is every time you create a post or a page, it's going to title the actual post and page and put it in the URL. However, you see if you choose a numeric option here, then when Google comes to your page, they're not necessarily going to know what this URL is about. They're going to look for the body tags, but in this case, the URL structure is by no means search engine friendly. So as you can see here, the plain version is just P equals 23. As a human being as well, you don't really know what that URL means, so choose Post Name here and click Save. Now, if you go on to a post or a page, or choose to create a post or a page, this is what it's going to look like. So when you create a post and page, like for example right here, this article here that says 10 different places to find credible freelancers online. If you have it here, you want to make sure that it is permalinked. Permalink is the URL structure. So we click on Edit here, and now we can see that the URL says 10 different places to find credible freelancers online. So what you want to do is obviously, we can't change the domain name, but we're going to put the title in here, and you want to put dashes in between the words, and when you're done, click on OK. Click Update, and that's it. So that's as easy as it gets in terms of editing the URL structure. Now, of course, you can add them into categories. So if you have a category, let's say in this case we have freelancers. The category could be freelancing sites, and then you could have maybe 10 different posts on freelancing sites, so that as a human being, you know that we're looking at this and it's under the category of freelancing, and you can create categories by going under categories and click on Add New Category. End that there, and then make sure that post or page is checked for that category. Click Update, and you're good to go. And that's it. Number 5. And in this video, we're going to talk about the body text structure. Basically, this is about what you should put in your content, and as you're writing your posts and your pages, how should you optimize it? So, what you write on your blog post and page should be first and foremost definitely human-friendly content, and then of course secondly search engine-friendly content. See, a lot of people make the mistake of trying to game the system, trying to make it so search engine-friendly that they totally forget about who they are writing to. Google, at the end of the day, really cares about bounce rate, and bounce rate, which we'll talk about later down the road, is basically if somebody stays on your page for a long period of time, or they just come to your page and leave immediately, and Google sees that, and it's not a good sign for them. In fact, if they go to Google and they type in, let's say for example, survival kit, and they go to your page and they don't like what they see, then of course, they go back to Google. They bounce. Google knows that they just left the page, and they rate you based on that. Of course, high bounce rate will actually hurt your ranking. So, if you're merely right for the search engines, you're going to have to deal with the bounce rate. High bounce rate lowers your rating. By rating, I mean how long do they stay or how long do they stick around, and if they don't, that will have a negative impact on you. So, what that means is the longer someone stays on your website, the lower your bounce rate is. So keep that in your mind. The word bounce rate, the word stick rate, you'll always come up when it comes to on-page optimization, or even search engine optimization in general. To Google websites with a lower bounce rate must be good. You know, the fact that people are staying on your page for a longer period of time tells search engines that this website must be what people are searching for, right? And this is important to Google and other search engines, as it also indirectly tells them that your site must have good content, and then they're going to rank you higher. So that's just one of the many different factors that you're going to deal with in SEO. And that said, let's discuss some elements that you need to have in your body text. One important thing is you definitely want to stick to one main keyword, and you have that main keyword definitely in the title of your page and throughout your page. So that keyword should be the same one in the URL structure for that post or your page. I'm going to show you this in a minute. If we hop on over to WordPress, you can use your keyword to name the title, and if everything is set up correctly, the permalink or the URL structure should have that keyword. Don't forget that you should also spread that keyword around. Now, you definitely don't want to make it appear too many times, otherwise it will be seen as keyword stuffing. So it should appear in the page and headings 1 and headings 2, which will be in the body text. I'll give an example later on, when we show it to you in action. Remember, the main keyword should always be somewhere in the first paragraph. It should be bold or italicized, but don't overdo it. There are actually ways to get around doing this and make it look natural. You got to remember that first and foremost, you're writing for the human being. So when you put your keyword in your text, you're going to make sure that it is going to make sense to the human. Then, you want to try to use variations of your keywords as well. So, let's use the example that we talked about earlier in the URL structure video, which was about red shoes. So, you want to try to use variations of the keyword or even synonyms. Google, of course, is smart enough. They have this huge database of words that are related. As far as the body text, let's go back the example of freelancers articles. So, up at the top, if we say that our main keyword is maybe find credible freelancers or places to find credible freelancers, then what we want to do is we want to make sure that it's in the heading 1 and 2. So we could take that and we could put it here, and we could highlight that, and then under this drop box here, we want to do heading 1. So that would be the heading. And then you want to make sure that it's heading 2, but we can do that later. So you want to make sure that the keyword is in the first paragraph. So it says, are you looking to outsource some of your work so that you can focus on your business better? Finding the right person can be difficult, but there are places online where you can search for credible freelancers. Now, let's discuss places to find credible freelancers. So obviously, the first letters are capitalized, as I want to make sure that it's human friendly. And then, you can highlight that. It can be italicized, or it can be bolded like that. So that needs to be in the first paragraph. You can also have it later down the road as a heading. And if we scroll down here, you can see we don't have an image right now, but we'll talk about that later when we'll find an image, and I'll show you how to add an alt tag. You want to do that too. Now, you want to go through this, and you want to create variations of this keyword. So let's say, places to find credible freelancers is Fiverr.com. This is a good place to find great freelancers. As you can see, we use the word credible. You can mix it up and say good place to find great freelancers or hardworking freelancers. So, what I'm saying here is you don't necessarily have to use that exact match keyword, but you're using variations so that Google knows you're not trying to game the system and you're not trying to keyword stuff. But at the same time, it's a variation of your keyword or it's a similar synonym and it appears more natural. We can go through here, we can do other things as well. That's pretty much the basics of it. But another thing you can do is look at tags as well, so you could add tags to your post. Let's move on to the next video to discuss that. 6. And we're going to talk about image optimization today, or in other words, how to make your images more search engine friendly. You see, when it comes to images, you need to tell the search engines what the images are about. They're not really going to know off the bat what the images are. Now, there are ways that Google can figure out the image, which we'll talk about in just a second. You know, maybe one day search engines will be smart enough to be able to figure out what images are about. But right now, you need to help them out just a little bit. Get them a kickstart that they need. First and foremost, when you pick an image, you should insert your main keyword or variations of the main keyword into the alt tag. But if you don't know what those are, Please, don't worry about it right now. We're going to show you everything in just a minute. Now, what I recommend is, let's say, for example, that you have 3 images on your page. We should optimize them. Remember, the more images you'll have, the better. You don't want to get too many images, but the more images, the better, because images also bring traffic. Next, very important things I'd like to recommend as well is the first image that you have on your page should contain the main keyword in it. While doing so, make sure that your keyword actually relates to the image itself. So, if the image is an image of a shoe, you definitely don't want to put something like a peanut butter sandwich in alt tag. You need to put something that's related, right? For the second image in a row, however, you don't want to insert into alt tag the same main keyword. Instead, you want to put a variation of that keyword. Now, there are other ways that Google can figure out if those are legit images or not. In fact, what they'll do is they'll index them into the Google image search engine, like I've mentioned earlier. So, whenever somebody searches for that image and they click on that image, they will think, okay, those images on your page are definitely legit. Then, Google is going to rank you higher, right? So that is why making sure that your keywords and your images fit and they are accurate enough is important. Now, like I said, more images with variations of the keyword you have, that's even better for your SEO. So, if we're focusing specifically on red shoes as the post itself, maybe it is better to indicate a specific brand name of shoes. You might want to put the brand name, or you might want to put like the brand name plus red shoes. Perhaps you might want to put shoes red, or a red something that's a synonym of shoes. So, to make more sense, let me show you what you need to do on screen, and I'll give you some more tips along the way. Okay, so adding images and making them search engine friendly is actually very easy to do. But first things first, you'll need to find an image if you don't already have one. Let's start where we left off in the previous video. Here, we don't have any images, but let's just go ahead and add one. So I'm going to add one somewhere in the beginning, so we could add an image, let's say here. Now, I want to say we do have an image like a featured image down here. But what we're talking about are images within the actual body text. So let's go ahead and click on Add Media. And these are existing images that you see here. You can choose one of them, or we can also upload a file here as well. So let's try to find something that relates to freelancers. So right here it says title, caption, alt text, and description. By default, as you can see here, within an image it shows something like a code. It doesn't look natural, it doesn't tell a human being what it is, and it doesn't tell Google what it is. Beyond just some basic optimization, you have to realize that if somebody is disabled and somebody is listening to some sort of software that speaks out loud, it can read what the images on the page is about. If you used alt text right, then this is actually going to help you reach those kind of people. Alt tag for images provides search engines with a text alternative indicating what the image is about. So keep that in mind as well, and by making it friendly to all sorts of people, you'll get an extra vote with Google. So let's say, for example, that this is something to do with places, to find credible freelancers. So all you need to do is simply put that in the alt tag. Now, for the title, you want to do something similar. You can do top 10 places to find credible freelancers. Bear in mind that these images might show up in the Google image search engine, and if you implement this right, the information will show up. So, if somebody is utilizing the image search engine, which a lot of people do nowadays, then they're going to see that image. If your competitors are merely just uploading the images and they're not optimizing it for the alt tags and the titles and descriptions, then you're going to be one step ahead of them. So, caption can be this image, a screenshot of the top 10 places to find great freelancers. You want to mix and match keywords here and use variations so that doesn't look like your keyword stuffing. Then, of course, you can put the description here whenever you're ready. Click on Insert into Post, and there we go. Now, you can always edit that later if you click on the image here and click on Edit. You can always edit the alternative text so the alt tag definitely is optimized as you want that keyword in there. You can put the keyword here in the captions as well if you want to. So we're going to click on Update because I didn't do any updates. And of course, you can add other images as well throughout the page, but make sure first and foremost it is human friendly, and then based on that, you can create variations of the keyword. And of course, when you're ready, go ahead and click Update. That's it for today. And now, let's move on to our next factor. Today, we're going to talk about title optimization. This is an extremely important topic because it's often the first thing that people will see as they are searching the internet. So, if you go to google.com and you type in a keyword, whatever that is, then you're going to see the titles, and then you're going to see the descriptions for each and every single web site. With YouTube, you're going to see the titles, the descriptions, and of course, the image, which is the video thumbnail. So, based on the media in general, you see they're all going to have titles. Having the right title is important for SEO. So, like I said, this is extremely important because that's the first thing people going to see after search, and you want to make sure that you're ranking on the keyword that is in the title. And then, of course, when you get to your page, you want to make sure that the content fits the title. So, you want to be congruent all the way, starting from what they typed in and what they get as a result. This way, your traffic is going to trust you, and then they're likely to take action if you need them to. So, this needs to be set for all of your posts or your pages, and you really need to think clearly and carefully about titles, because we have seen in a lot of cases where people just name their content with whatever title that comes to their mind. And what ends up happening is you work so hard to create the content, but you attract the wrong person, and they come to your post or page, and you wonder why nobody is taking action, right? To make it easier for you to be congruent, take the main keyword and make sure that your keyword is in your title somewhere, because that's what your viewers are searching for. Now, sometimes people put the keywords straight up in the beginning and they'll put the keyword dash whatever. But what I recommend that you do is you put the keyword in the title and you want to make sure that it sounds right. It's got to be human friendly first, and then of course, search engine friendly. Because at the end of the day, Google is moving towards long-term engagement, towards social engagement, people engagement, and that's what is important to them right now. So, if you think about it, their goal is for people to search and find what they want. So, they want to make sure that they connect you to the right person. Of course, all they really care about is the customer, the one performing search, and not you, right? So as long as you're on the top 10 of the Google search engine for that keyword, and that keyword is appearing in your title, it's highly likely that the prospect will click through your website. Now, as basic as this sounds, I want to make sure that you understand this concept. Most of your competitors are not really going to do this, and they're going to miss something along the way. Because sometimes the title is right, but when people go to the content, it just doesn't make sense to them, and they bounce. So, as long as you're congruent from the keyword to the title, to the post page, to the content itself, to the call to action, to the product, then everything is congruity work together from starting point to the end. This way, you're most likely going to gain the trust of a prospect, and you're most likely going to get the conversion. That's the most important thing here. Now, as a rule of thumb, your title should be no more than 75 characters long. You don't want it to be too long because psychologically, that will actually overwhelm the person typing things in. And remember, most people are just scanning the content and not reading. They're looking for something really quick. So if you have something short, straight to the point, you're most likely going to win as long as it's optimized and it's correct to that keyword. And now that we've talked about the fundamentals, let me go ahead and show you what you need to do to set this up properly. Now, let's say, for example, your main keyword is places to find credible freelancers. Sometimes you'll find people do something like this: places to find credible freelancers, and then, of course, they'll put the keyword first, and then they'll put a sentence. You can do that if you want to. There's no proof that it works or doesn't work. But you definitely want to make sure that your content is human-friendly first. So in this case, our keyword is 10 different places to find credible freelancers online. Or we could do something like this: top 10 places to find credible freelancers. Now, what you should do is, if you change the title here, make sure that it's changed right here as well. So if we want to do that, we go back over here, we just copy that end. But we need to make sure that there are dashes in between the words. So what I'm doing right now is I'm simply adding dashes in between the words. So there we go. And now we clicked OK, and that's it. So as a wrap up, I would say, remember, the title is crucial for SEO. Next, I'll show you where you can find 2 important SEO WordPress plugins with the help of which you can add more data, like the metadata, the description, and all that. But for now, by default, if you don't have those WordPress plugins, what the search engine will often do is they'll grab the title. So click update, and that's it. We're going to dive straight in and talk about meta optimizations. This is going to be a short lesson. So, meta is the description that is going to show up on search engines. Just like the title optimization that we've done in the previous lesson, this is what people are going to see in the search when they perform a search for a specific keyword. In other words, it's the description beneath the title, and you need to make sure that this is set up both in your posts and your pages. And this needs to be no more than 160 characters long. So let me show you what you need to do to set it up. Okay, we briefly talked about this before, but I'm just going to do a recap here. We talked about the meta description being important. This is similar to image optimization actually. The description is crucial in images because if images appearing in the image search engine, it will appear with that description and that title. Now, if you don't have a special WordPress SEO plugin installed, search engines typically going to grab this as a title, and then the description usually will be populated with the beginning of first paragraph. So, for congruency's sake, you want to make sure your keyword to appear in the title. The first headline is here in the description, and you usually want to try to put the keywords down here, but you don't want to put it too much to avoid stuffing. Remember, if you have too many keywords, you're going to want to add more text. If you have more keywords, you definitely want to add more images as well. So, the more images, the more text, not stuffed with your specific keyword, the better. Now, by default, it is going to grab this as a description, but if you have the WordPress SEO plugin that we'll talk about in our next lesson, you will have the opportunity to add more metadata, which I'll show you later on. But this is sort of a preliminary video to discuss why the metadata is actually used. And congratulations with this lesson, you've reached the end of this course, and this kind of a bonus lesson for you, because we talked about how to manually optimize your WordPress site. Now we're going to talk about how to automate the process. Now, the reason why we didn't jump straight into this video was simply because you needed to understand why SEO elements are important on their own. Then, use this system to automate everything. The 2 plugins that I'm going to talk about today will be great help for you to automate certain processes, like the URL structure, but at the same time, knowing how things work and why certain things are important is more crucial at the end of the day. So, now let's talk about the 2 SEO plugins. With these 2 WordPress plugins, you can literally boost your on-page optimization. You can get both of them on a free version, and they both have a paid version too. Now, 2 of these plugins are very common. The first one you'll most likely maybe already using. The second one is not so popular, but they actually work hand in hand. So let me go ahead and show you these plugins and mention why they are both important. So, the two plugins are number one is Yoast SEO. And if you go in here, you can get a better idea of what it's all about. But this is one of the most popular SEO plugins, and this plugin will actually help you optimize your site automatically. So now you understand the basics of the title, the description, and all that. You are ready to use Yoast. A lot of times, what Yoast SEO will do is if you just create a title and you put that in the title of the WordPress post or page, you click update and it'll automatically fill in the permalink or the URL structure, and it will fill out other data as well as you begin to create your posts and your page. Now that's the free version. The paid version actually takes it one step further and does a lot more. Now, I'm not going to cover all details of Yoast in this particular video because you can go here and check it out for yourself. But if you want to figure out how to install it, it's very easy. All you have to do is go to your WordPress site here and go to Add Plugins under Plugins menu. Type in the word Yoast and you'll see it right here. The second plugin is called SEO Squirrely. So if you type in SEO SQUIRRLY, then you can actually download the plugin. And they also have a free version, which is, in my opinion, is really good. What SEO Squirrely focuses on is schema or snippets. And schema is necessary because that's the way of the future, and it tells search engines what your site is all about and provide even more information than that. But the short answer is it just helps optimize your site in a much better way. When you go to SEO Squirrely's site, it'll say that their plugin is better than Yoast. And then, of course, sometimes you might see an article out there that compares these two plugins. You'll see that they're going against each other as competitors, but at the same time, you can either use Yoast or you can use SEO Squirrely. But you can also use them both. What we found over the years that SEO Squirrely focuses on schema, and schema is just a way to make your site appear in the search engines where people will click on your link. Schema is a code, semantic vocabulary that you put on your website to help the search engines return more informative results for users. So, if you've seen, for example, the ratings, the 5-star ratings that appear in the search engine that is based on schema, and there's a lot of other different little elements where if you've got on your page, like images and videos and all that, SEO Squirrely will automatically optimize those media types on your page. And we found that you can actually download these two plugins together, and they work hand in hand. They can run each other based on the title and the meta description, and they can conflicts in that realm, but at the end of the day, each will perform its job. But if you feel you kind of need to pick and choose which one you want to go with, you can research better and read articles and recommendations. However, from our experience, Yoast, I can tell you, will pretty much do everything that we talked about, and of course, SEO Squirrely as well. It's just they typically are focused on different areas, so my take on that is just install them both and just see what happens and use them both and go from there. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Brian, and I am glad to present this course on behalf of our team at CourseBox. This is the introduction to Google Keyword Planner. My goal here is to share our knowledge with you as much as I can to effectively use the Keyword Planner, and you can apply it to your business, whether you're trying to do market research and try to figure out if a niche is going to be profitable before you move into it, or if you have a product yourself and a service that you want to promote and you're trying to find those keywords that people are typing in so that you can rank on Google however you wish to do so and drive sales to your business. Keep in mind though, we are not going to focus on any specific method of traffic or market research, but really focus on how to use Google Keyword Planner. If you want to learn how to do SEO, you'll need to search out and find a video course on that, but once you understand how to use Google Keyword Planner, you will be able to go out, learn all these different marketing strategies and things like that, and apply it and increase further down the road. Just a quick video's overview right now. The introduction is this specific video. I'm going to briefly talk about what you need and how it all works and things like that. Video number 2 is going to be the different types of searches. As you know, there are going to be 4 different types of searches. The first one is going to be covered in video number 3. And since that's all a lot more in depth, I'm going to go further in depth in video number 4 on that specific type of search. Then, I'm actually going to show you how to customize detailed estimates, which is a little tool that is part of the Google Keyword Planner that allows you to figure out, okay, this is my budget. This is how much I want to bid for these keywords. How much is it going to cost me? How many clicks am I going to get? And things like that. You don't really have to use the Google AdWords system if you're going to go search engine optimization or video marketing. But just by going through these exercises, this will allow you to see, okay, is this actually going to be profitable for me or is it not? Because if advertisers are bidding on specific keywords and you're trying to rank them on organically, meaning you're trying to rank on them with videos and articles and things like that, then you're going to get a good idea how profitable these areas are. Number 6, I'm going to show you how to create and download keyword list, which is beneficial if you want to save the hard data to your hard drive and manipulate it. Use it for future uses. Video number 7, we're going to talk about search type B, which is going to be search volume. This is a great search feature if you already have the keywords themselves and you just want hard data really, really fast. You could essentially use other keyword tools in the mix and drop the keyword list into Google Keyword Planner. Video number 8 is going to be traffic estimates. It's somewhat similar to the customized detailed estimates, but in this case, we're going to be having keyword list that we already have and just insert it, upload it, and get the hard data really quick. And of course, last but not least, we're going to cover in video 9, search type D, which is the 4th search is multiplying keyword list. What this allows you to do is really expand on different keyword ideas. So you could take just a couple ideas and just expand it further and figure out what is the actual data. How many people are actually searching? What are advertisers paying for these specific keywords and more? This is basically how it works. What I want you to think about right now is what business are you trying to promote? Or what area do you want to research? Because you want to kind of have an idea of this ahead of time, because it will make more sense when you actually figure out how to use the Google Keyword Planner. Think of a general keyword that expresses your business, your service, or even the niche that you want to figure out if it is profitable or not. Let's say, for example, that I have a puppy training online course. Obviously, in that case, I don't really want to focus on senior adults, training, or anything like that. I want to find a specific type of person. The type of person who is just excited. They just got a puppy. They want to train it. I want to keep my general keyword in this sense to something like puppy. If I keep it to puppy, then that will give me a bird's eye view of all the other keywords that might relate to puppy training. It might not be puppy training, but it might relate to it in some sort of fashion. That's what I mean by general keywords. So if you can think about that and keep that in mind, because we're going to actually dive in and you're going to enter that into the Google Keyword Planner. After that, you'll learn how to use the Google Keyword Planner. You have all this data in front of you, and you're thinking, wow, this is overwhelming. I will recommend that you only grab the data that you need. Forget the other data that you don't need, because focus on the data that you need, and it will work out in the end. Things you need, obviously. You don't need any more money. All you need is a Google account. If you have an AdWords account, you can use that. It's the same account as Gmail, YouTube, or anything like that. If you don't have an account, you will need to create one, which you can create one at any of these other avenues. And of course, you will need to know your end goal. You have an idea of your business or what that keyword is, but you need to know your end goal. I want you to think ahead. Because if you think ahead, then it will just make your life a lot easier when you see how Google Keyword Planner fits into all of the whole process. Once you have an idea of that and you try to implement it yourself after you have learned everything in this course, It will just make your life a lot easier, because the best way to go to Google Keyword Planner is simply by going to google.com, typing in Keyword Planner at the very top in the search box, and simply clicking on the link at the top. I find that's the easiest way to get to it instead of giving you a long URL. Once you're in, you have to log in. You do need to have a Google account, whether it's your Gmail account or your YouTube account. It's all the same Google account. If you don't have a Google account, you will need to go ahead and create one. Once you have logged in, you will be presented with 4 different types of searches, as you can see here. You have the means to search for new keywords and add group ideas. You can get the search volume for a list of keywords. Keep in mind, this is the type of search, which is great if you haven't done the keyword search beforehand and you'll want to start from scratch. You haven't used any keyword tool at all, and you just want to start from scratch and you want to enter a general keyword. Let's say, for example, that we type in dog training, and your whole goal is to figure out within dog training which are the highest demanding keywords within that broader general niche. Once you have found maybe little areas in keywords and markets that are within the bigger market that might be profitable, then you might want to go after those. If you have a product or service already, then obviously you'll want to stick with a keyword or keyword phrases that relate specifically to your product and service. Google has many different searches here, so let me explain to you how these can help you. Obviously, the first one is great if you want to start from scratch. You can type in the keyword here. You can type in the landing page if you really don't know where to start, but you do have your website. You can simply enter your website here, and Google will do its best to figure out which keywords that you are using. You can also choose product categories, as you can see here. I'm not going to dive in too much detail because I will be covering this area in the next video, but as you can see, you really can target specifics. You can go into different locations, different languages, different Google, and Google search partners. You can enter negative keywords, and I'll explain in a little more detail later on. We have date ranges, we have keyword filters, keyword options, and the ability to include or exclude specific keywords. That will give you a good idea of where to get started. Let's say, for example, that you have used Google Keyword Planner before and you have a list of keywords maybe about a month ago, or you've done keyword research with a different keyword tool and you have a list of keywords. But all you want to do is get the search volume for those list of keywords. That gives you the ability with this search type here. With this search type here, all you have to do is simply upload or enter the keywords right here, or you can upload the file right here. You can pretty much do the same thing in terms of targeting locations, Google, negative keywords, or date ranges as well. That gives you the search volume, which is basically how many people search for a specific keyword. Then we have get traffic estimates. So in this case, if you have a list of keywords just like the previous one, but you only want to get to the traffic estimates, this gives you the ability to do that so you get data really, really quick. The last type of search as of now is called multiply keyword list to get new keyword ideas. At this point of time, you've done a lot of different keyword research and you've gotten a bunch of list of keywords here and there. What you can do with this is you can take those keyword lists and multiply them. I'll go into a little more detail about this, but basically what this allows you to do is it multiplies the keywords and combines the keywords together. If you enter a keyword here and enter a keyword here, it will combine the two. If you have a list of 10 and a list of 5, it will combine as many as possible to create different combinations of keywords, so that way you can actually expand further on what you're already doing. As well as you can see, you have the similar targeting options. What I want to do next in the next video is really dive into the search for new keyword and add group ideas so you know exactly how to use it effectively. Hello and welcome back. Today, I want to cover how to search for new keyword and add group ideas search at the very top here effectively. Obviously, today I want to teach you how to use the Google Keyword Planner, but keeping in mind that I know you have a specific goal in mind, whether it be trying to figure out if a specific niche in your market is profitable or not. Perhaps you're in that product development stage, or perhaps you have a different product or service and you really want to figure out the keywords that are profitable enough to eventually rank on Google, to use Google AdWords, to use search engine optimization, to use video marketing. There are many different routes that you can go to, and I'm not really going to specifically focus on any of them, but I want you to realize that the best route is to probably start with a general keyword. I'm not thinking about a general keyword, like for example, puppy training. I'm not thinking about dog training. I am thinking about puppies, because you might miss out on specific profitable words along the way, so that's why you want to start out with a more general keyword. Let's say, for example, I'm doing puppy training, but I want to kind of get a bird's eye view on all the keywords that might be related to puppy training. So I'm just going to type in puppy and see what I get. If I don't get the results that I'm looking for, obviously I can redo it and go from that point as well. You can also enter your landing page here. If you don't know where to start, then you can also enter that here, and you can also choose a product category. As you can see with the categories, there are many different categories. You can either choose all categories or specific categories. There are actually subcategories within the category. So let's say, for example, food and groceries. You'll notice that there are beverages, food, household supplies, and online grocery shopping and grocery delivery. We can also click on all categories at the top to go back to the main categories. If we go through here and we don't really find what we're looking for, that's fine. You don't have to choose these options, and they are not required. You do need to enter a keyword or a landing page and so forth. In terms of targeting, if you really don't know where to start, then I want to really specify a specific location. Let's say, for example, that you have done the proper research already, and you know that your target market is in a specific location, so you can actually type in that specific location right here. Let's say, for example, that I have already done my research. I'm already in the puppy training niche, and know that the majority of puppy trainers, or the people that I'm trying to reach that want puppy training, are located in Atlanta, Georgia. If you type in Atlanta, you will actually see all the cities that relate to Atlanta. Then you can see the state as well, or Washington, so it could be Washington, D.C., Washington State, other cities as well. Right now, I'm not going to do any location targeting, but I just wanted to show you that option there if you want to find a specific location. You can enter other countries, Australia, Sydney, Australia, UK, anywhere in the world that they have listed. Under languages, they have different types of languages, and these are primarily the Google search engines for these languages. In this case, I'm gonna keep it at English. You have Google search, so you can either do the main Google search or Google and its search partners. Google has other search partners out there and websites basically allowing you to search, but in this case, we're going to keep it Google. Negative keywords are basically this. Let's say, for example, that I type in puppy and I get a bunch of keyword phrases that relate to a specific word. Let's say, for example, that specific word is free. One of the keywords are free puppy training or free puppy obedience training. Those keyword phrases with that specific negative keyword will be removed. That gives you the ability to remove keywords. Going down, we have date range. This allows you to specify the data, the hard data that you want for a specific given date term. So you can do 1 year, you can do 6 months. Just keep in mind that the shorter you go, the less data you will probably get. You can also compare them. You can compare the previous period versus the same period of last year. And you can also customize a specific period as well that you want to compare it to. But by default, it will show the last 12 months. You can also customize your search with keyword filters. As you can see, the average monthly searches for a given keyword, you can say something like, I only want keyword phrases that have 2,000 or more monthly searches, or a suggested bid, or a suggested ad impression share. You can also specify, okay, I only want keyword phrases that have high competition, or medium competition, or low competition. If I don't want a lot of competition, I can either do low or medium. If I want to go into market to know, and I'm doing market research and I want to know if there are a lot of competitors, because as you know, a lot of competitors tend to signify a good amount of buyers, so competition is good. So, if you're doing market research, you might want to do the high or and the medium versus the low. So really, depending on your needs, you really could use the Google Keyword Planner effectively for you. We got keyword options. You can only show ideas closely related to my search terms, so if you don't want to veer off too far and you want to keep close to something like puppy training or whatever you're searching for, then you can click here. You can show the keywords in your account so that you can use it later on. Show the keywords in your plan, and you can also show adult ideas. You can include and exclude. This will allow you to only show keywords containing the following terms. So if you really want to dig deep, but at the same time, you only want to show keyword phrases that relate to, let's say, for example, training, then everything related to puppy training is going to show up. So if it doesn't have the word training, it will not show up. You can also exclude keywords from containing any of these following terms. Let's say, for example, I include the keyword adults and senior, so that if adult or senior comes into my list of keyword phrases, it will not show up because I am focusing on puppy training. Let me actually dig a little deeper, and let's get some ideas about puppy. In the next video, I'm going to dig a little bit more deeper and actually show you how to effectively use all of these different types of searches and so forth. But for now, as you can see, if you type in puppy, you got ad group ideas and keyword ideas. If you have gone through everything and you really don't like what you see, you can always change the keyword up here and simply click on Get Ideas. I'm going to stop right there, and we'll move on to the next video. Welcome back. Right now we're looking at the ad group ideas and keyword ideas, and what I want to do in this video is just to dive a little deeper. So, on the left-hand side, you're going to see the targeting, the date range, the customize your search. Basically, if you don't see what you like over here, you can always tweak your settings and it will do it on the fly. It's set up really easily so that you can do that. At the top here, you can see the keyword search, and if you ever want to change the keyword phrase or keyword itself, let's say, for example, I don't really like puppy. I want to dig deeper and then focus on puppy training. I can do that and click on Get Ideas. Then at the top here, you're going to be able to see the search volume trends. So from May all the way down to April, you can see how many monthly searches this specific keyword gets. You can also see mobile trends. So let's say, for example, that I want to break it down and I want to see, okay, how many people that have smartphones are actually searching out of the other searches. As you can see, the total here is about 945,000. Out of that, about a third of the searches are mobile. That in itself also gives you an idea of the type of people that are in that market. So, a third of the market has cell phones. You can do a breakdown by device, so we have computers, mobile devices, and tablets. Obviously, computers have about 46%, but mobile devices with full browsers have about 36.3%. So we can see where the market is going. So we could see that people that type in puppy training, about 36% have mobile devices and 46% have computers. Then we see that 16.6% have tablets. That gives us a good idea. About almost a half have mobile or tablet devices. That also tells you, generally speaking, people that have mobile or tablet devices that have the ability to access full browsers definitely have some income. So that's a good determining factor. Just looking at the data here, as you can see, you've gotten a good amount of data. But you can go further and you can have breakdown by location. Obviously, this is all locations here, so it's not really targeted specifically towards a specific location. These are basically groups of keywords that can potentially add your Google AdWords plan and begin to bid on. Then over here, we have keyword ideas. So these are individual keyword phrases, and with the average monthly searches, the competition. So you can see a high, medium, or a low suggested bid, which is basically for puppy training itself. You know how you go to Google and you see ads at the top on the right-hand side? Those are the suggested bids. Keep in mind that every time you click on one of those ads, an advertiser such as yourself will have to pay a specific amount of money. So the suggested bid actually tells you puppy training is going to be about $1.42 because it has high competition. It has a lot of people bidding for that specific search term. Keep in mind that I don't recommend that you just go after puppy training. You really want to focus in on specific keyword phrases. The only reason why we search for puppy training is because we want to dig deeper and we want to find other keyword phrases that are below that. So, as you can see, we've got puppy training classes, puppy training biting. So for parents of puppies and dogs that bite a lot and we're trying to train them not to bite, this could be a specific keyword phrase that you could dig deeper on. I can take this one and put it up here and see what kind of stuff I get to dig a little more deeper. We could see that average monthly searches, which is about 880, there's a medium competition. There's about 81 cents for suggested bid, and of course, we got ad impression share. You also have statistics here, which is great. The trends are wonderful because you could kind of get an idea. Is this a consistent keyword phrase that people type into Google on a constant basis throughout the whole year? Or maybe it's a seasonal keyword like Christmas or Halloween. So that will give you an idea about, okay, is this a keyword phrase that I want to bid on and rank on? You can toggle chart here. You can also, and this little feature just allows you to basically push the chart up so you can focus clearly on the keyword ideas so you have more space and room to move things around and do your research. This little button here basically allows you to add specific keyword to your plan. So for example, puppy training classes. Let me click on this. I scroll over to the right. You'll notice that it allows you to customize your plan. This is really for those of you who want to utilize the Google AdWords plan and go ahead and pay for specific keywords. This gives you an idea of daily estimates and things like that. But I will actually focus on this on a future video and show you how to create customized estimates. But for now, let's just focus on this area here. As you can see here, you can easily customize it. So let's say, for example, that for location, I only want puppy training for the United States or the United Kingdom or Australia or anything like that. So if I do that here, this will narrow it down so that I only see results for the United States. Let's say, for example, I'm a physical company and I only want to cater and send my items to the United States. That gives me a better idea, okay? Puppy training tips in the United States has about 1,600 average monthly searches. If I have not targeted previously, it would show all of it, so I can choose languages. I could do Google and search partners to kind of broaden it a little bit more. As you can see, when you make these changes, the beauty of the Google Keyword Planner is that it actually updates it right in your face, so you don't have to refresh the page or anything like that. You can do keyword date range, keyword filters. Let's say now that I know that most of these seem to be below 1,000, but if I had a lot of searches, let's say for example, puppy, I want you to go up here and type in puppy and get ideas, and that way we got more average monthly searches. Let's say we're dealing with stuff like 368,000, and we don't really want to focus on keyword phrases that have a lot of searches. We want to focus on the ones that get lower amount of searches. They're probably more targeted. Like puppies is too general, to be honest, but more targeted like German Shepherd puppies or puppies for adoption, so you can specifically reach a specified type of mindset. If that's the case, you can always go to keyword options here and keyword filters. And then let's say, for example, that we want it to be less than 2,000. And we want the competition to be about medium and low. So we have Shih Tzu puppies, buy puppies online, puppy games online, and so forth. We can now see medium or low competition, and we can always tweak that as well and go the opposite way for anything that is bigger than 2,000 searches. Let's say, for example, we're doing our market research, and what you want to figure out is if there is buying markets. There's high competition in these areas here, and as you can see, you find keyword ideas that you may never had thought about earlier. Then we have the Ad Groups Ideas tab here, and if you click on this, just to give you some examples, you can see keywords that are related to pet supplies. If you want to tackle Google AdWords here and just start adding this to your plan, you could easily do that as well. You can also modify your search at the very top, and you can do the other 4 different searches here, but we're not getting into that right now. That's really how to use this quite effectively. Let's talk about customizing detailed estimates. Now, you would use this if you wanted to figure out what it would cost to bid on certain keywords, so utilizing the Google AdWords keyword tool, you will definitely want to pay close attention to this. Before you can actually do that, you will need to add keywords to your plan, which is over here. This is the plan on this side, and you'll need to add keywords from this point over to this point, and to do that, all you have to do is simply click on here to add it to the plan. You'll notice that when you add it to the plan, the keywords over here will disappear, and that gives you the ability to search more keywords and simply add on the ones that you want over to here. When it comes to reviewing the estimates, I can see all the keywords that I want to review, and all I have to do is simply click on the Review Estimates. At this point, you'll be brought to a new screen where you can simply enter a bid and a daily budget. Then, of course, you can add detailed estimates that relate to your campaign. As you can see here, the ad group or the ads that you have, you can see kind of an idea of, okay, this is going to cost you $115 to get about 300 clicks. And then as you ramp it up, you can get more clicks. This is going to be CPC, which is cost per click. And then you can see the impressions per day that you could potentially get. And of course, cost per day to get ad position up to ad position 1. If we were to enter, let's say for example, since we have an idea here, we enter something like 50 cents a bid and our daily budget is something like $25. If you click on Get Detailed Estimates, this gives you an idea about how many clicks per day you will actually receive with this bid on this daily budget. You can see clicks per day, impression per day, cost per day, and of course, the ad position. Ad position for this, you would be in the range of 2 to 3. If we up it a little bit, let's say 90 cents, and then we get detailed estimates, you can see that the ad position does move up, but not drastically. So, we're no longer in the 3 position, we're now in the 2 position. This is the ad group as a whole. As we go down here, we can actually see more details, such as the CTR, which is the click-through rate. So for example, if you have 100 people come to the ad, and then 2.1 or 2 people click it, then that would be about $2 CTR. If we click here, we can actually see it in a little more detail in terms of the keywords themselves. So for example, the puppy potty training, we get about 0.78 clicks, which is about 1 click, 49 impressions, and then the cost would be about 50 cents. There's not a lot of clicks for puppy potty training in this case, if we bid that amount. If I up it, we can see what kind of results we get. It looks about the same, but we could see that dog training classes, or even puppy shots, or puppy training classes, or service dog training, gets a little more clicks than these here too. What it does is it just gives you an idea of what you're dealing with. You can also edit match types. So for example, currently it should be broad match type. If you switch it to something like exact match type, you probably will not get as many clicks, but they're going to be a lot more targeted tricks. But puppy training dogs, we can see that the clicks does move up. Then we have phrased match, and as you can see, the updates show right here. Just keep in mind though, that broad match means that when somebody types in dog trainer, that means in any case where the words dog or trainer appear, it will pull the keyword phrase in. If it's an exact match like dog trainer, it will only look for the keyword dog trainer. Phrase match is similar in the sense that if it's dog trainer, then it will pull in anything related to dog trainer. But if it said something like German Shepherd dog trainer, that would be phrase match and it would pull that keyword in. This is a great tool to use if you're using Google AdWords or if you just want to get an idea of profitability in your market demand. Of course, once you're done with that, you can simply click on Save to Account. When it comes to creating and downloading your list, it's actually fairly easy to do. Up here, when you have ad group ideas, as you know, with ad group ideas, you have, say for example, in this case, 5 keywords here, and you can actually add all to your plan. When you add all to your plan, what it does is it enables you to also download the plan as well. We could click on Add All here, and that will basically add all these keywords to your plan, which, if you click on this yellow bar here, you'll actually be able to see all the keywords here as well. If I go back over to here and click on Keyword Ideas, let's say for example that I want to add all here, or I want to pick and choose which ones I add. For example, I can add puppy training classes, and as you can see, when I click on this, it adds it to this list right here, and I can click on dog trainer, obedience training, puppy shots, and then I can see the list right here. If I want to add all, I can add all here. I can also click on download all of the ideas. So if this idea a page shows hundreds and hundreds ads, and I just want to download the whole list, I can simply click on download ideas here, or you can specifically add keywords to your plan, and then at that point, you can simply click on this right here. If I scroll over, you'll see the little download here. If you click on this here, you'll be able to download your plan. You can download historical statistics, include average monthly searches, competition, and other statistics that you can segment by month, or you don't have to include that. That's an option there. You can also include traffic estimates, include clicks, impressions, and other things like that. But you can't do that until you actually create your estimates. You can download it through AdWords Editor, CSV if you're going to use Google AdWords, or if you don't really want to use Google AdWords and you have some sort of different goal in mind, whether you want to use your keywords for SEO, video marketing, or anything else like that, then you can simply click on Excel CSV, which is a basic spreadsheet, and you can click on download. If I just want the keywords, all I have to do is uncheck that and click on download. We'll click on save file, and there's the file. If you double click this, we can actually take a look at what it looks like, and as you can see here, we have the ad group. It's dog training, and the individual keywords are these, and then you can see the keyword type, which is broad. There are 3 different types of keyword types, which we'll get into later down the road. Currently, it only shows the keywords because I don't want any extra data, but if I were to close this down and say for example click on download again and include and segment by month and download that, we could take a look at what it looks like. As you can see the ad groups, the individual group, the keyword type, the currency, the average month. So if I want to do a little bit more research right now, I can. You can see the competition. You can see suggested bid. You can see the volume of searches, different types. Searches in different months. So we got May, June, July, August, all the way over to March. Now, we have everything on our computer and we can easily do some more research and so forth down the road. Now, you can see how easy it is to download your keyword list, which we can use later on when we actually do a search for volume and do a search for traffic estimates and more in the future videos. So that's it for now. Let's dive into the second type of search, which is getting search volume for a list of keywords or group them into AdWords. Before you can do this, you obviously need to have a list of keywords to either enter here or you can also upload them here. As you can see, you have to not just enter the keywords, but if you want to specify a specific match type, then you'll add the punctuations. Broad match is obviously going to be nothing surrounding it. Phrase match will have quotations surrounding it, and exact match will have brackets surrounding these. Just to repeat myself here, if you don't know what the difference is between the 3, are basically broad match. If you say something like, in this example, New York hotels, if the word New York shows up or hotel shows up, then it will pull that keyword in. So it's very, very, very broad. If you want to focus on just New York hotels, whereas it says something like New York or Manhattan, New York hotels, then it will grab that keyword phrase in. So anytime that even though there's words surrounding it, as long as it says New York hotels in the keyword phrase, it's going to pull the keyword phrase in. Now, exact match is going to be exact. If you have New York hotels, it's only going to look for keywords that have those in within the brackets, as you can see here. So that's mainly what the difference is. Let's go ahead and grab the list of keywords that we created previously, and if I go and look for it here, remember, I have the Excel spreadsheet, so these are the keywords here. You can upload it by file if you want to, but in this case, because I'm dealing with such a small amount of keywords, I'm going to simply pop this into here. Remember, right now, these are defined as broad match keywords. In order to create exact match keywords, I would need to do something like bracket. And then, if I want to do phrase match, I'm going to have to do it again. And then, of course, if I want broad match, I will have to do it like this. There are 3 different variations that you'll need to do depending on what you want to target. Generally speaking, I like to target exact match or phrase match because they are very, very specific. And that way, I can really target somebody in that specific mindset. If I do something too broad, I really don't know what kind of dog obedience training they're looking for. I can narrow it down. Let's say this is one of the keywords that I wanted. I can do exact match and phrase match. Now, there are tools out there. I'm sure you can find something on the internet that will speed this process up for you. But I just want to show you the manual way so that you have an idea of what you need to do. Let's say, for example, I want to do dog training classes. I have exact match here. I have phrase match here, and of course, I've got broad match here. Let's say we want to just stay with these keywords. Once you have entered your keywords in, you have targeting, so you can specify the location, the country. It doesn't have to be United States. It can be any country. Google or Google and search patterns, and of course, negative keywords. In this case, I'm going to remove that. I don't really need any negative keywords, and you can specify the date range as well, and we'll click on Get Search Volume. If I scroll over to the right here, we can actually see the keywords we entered here as a keyword as a whole if I used all of the keywords. You can see the monthly searches are about 36,000 to 40,000 monthly searches. We can see the mobile trends. It looks like about a third using his mobile, and we can say breakdown by device, so it's about half and half, and then breakdown by location. So, as you can see, it's very, very similar to the first type of search. But in this case, it's just a faster way of just simply entering the keywords that you already have, then going from that point and beyond. In this video, we're going to be focusing on getting traffic estimates for a list of keywords. So, very similar to the previous video if you've had a chance to watch that. I described what broad match, phrase match, and exact match are, but what you all have to do is simply enter the keywords here. We can enter them here, but you can put commas in between the keywords, or you can simply do them like this, where they have different keywords on each line. Or you can simply upload the keyword list if you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of keywords. Now, obviously, you can target different countries, languages, the same thing as you can do previously. But what this does, it basically estimates the future traffic. You can see under date range, you can see that it says get estimate based on next 7 days showing daily estimates. So that's how it's different than just showing the search volume. It's showing what is to bid. If you click on get estimates, let's take a look at the data. I'm going to scroll over to here, and what this is doing is it's taking the existing data that it has previously, but just taking it one step further and giving you an idea of, okay, if you're going to bid $1, and then my option is daily budget of $30, from that point, it's going to estimate that, okay, you're going to get about 24 to 30 clicks per day. Now, That's the ad group itself. So, all the keywords that you're looking at, you could see the device and what kind of devices, and then, of course, location. You can specify location. State you can see it in these nice looking graphs in terms of how many clicks per day, but where are these clicks actually coming from? Very similar to impressions, you could see where these clicks are coming from. We can see the majority are coming from California, and the cost per day, and of course, the ad position. If we increase our bid, say something like $2, and we reload it, we can see the change here. If you want to take a little bit closer into the detail of the location in terms of, okay, how many clicks, how many impressions, how much it costs, what's the click-through rate, and so forth. So we can see that District of Columbia, for example, their click-through rate is really high, which is a good thing. You can really narrow this down into specific locations that you want to target, like District of Columbia, Delaware, Alaska, and so forth. Now, click-through rate doesn't always define whether or not it actually converts. That's really on your end. But on the Google side of the end, they can actually see how many people are clicking through, which is great. This is great data because think about it. You could know how many people would actually click through just by guessing. The beauty of this is you can actually download the actual plan and get all these data so that you can use it later down the road. That's kind of what I like to do, is download these and take a look at them and just keep a record of all the data so that you can use it later. As you can see, this is really what the tool does. Basically, just gives you an estimate of the keywords that you enter in. Also, under the keyword tab, you can see that you can specify all the keywords should be converted to exact match, or all the keywords should be converted to phrase match or broad match, so that you can get an idea of the clicks for the different variations. That way, you have a better idea of what you're working with, and then narrow it down in the future to what you're willing to actually bid on. You can download this plan as well, so you have it on your computer. If I go back to device and I scroll down to the bottom, you can actually see in detail there are about 15 clicks per desktop. Mobile traffics is about 10, and then of tablets are about 10. You can get an idea not only of the statistics, but what kind of customers you're dealing with. Most people who have tablets have a little more income, and people who have iPhones and so forth like that. Not only you're getting data, but you're getting data that will allow you to dig further into your customer profile as well. There are many different directions where you can use the Google Ad Planner. Hello, and welcome to the last video on multiplying keyword list to get new keyword ideas, and this is a great feature to allow you to expand ideas. If you click on this, you will see that there's a list 1, list 2, and you can also add another list through by clicking this X right here, and you have similar targeting. Now, what this basically does is it multiplies. Let's say, for example, you had the words red, blue, and black, and over here you had the words shoe and dress. What this will do is it will come along and do something like red shoe, black shoe, and then red dress, blue dress, and then black dress. Now, if you add a third list into the mix, then obviously you will get a lot more ideas. That's the beauty of that if you know you're stuck or you're thinking about a different angle, like, okay, I'm going to put adjectives here. I'm going to put verbs here, or brand names here, or nouns here. You could do it that way as well. Or you could simply take in the keywords list that we had created previously in the other videos, and you can simply add words onto it. For example, we could have something like, instead of dog training or training classes, we just do something like this. And then we perhaps go like puppy, senior adult, and senior dogs. What this will do is it will mix it all in different angles, and you can put different age groups and different levels of stages. You really could get all creative with this, and the whole idea is to really think out of the box and try to imagine what these would create. Now, obviously, when you're done, all you need to do is simply click on Get Estimates or Get Search Volume. Remember, when you get estimates, it basically is estimating how many clicks per day, how much it's going to cost you, and things like that. In terms of search volume, that would actually get us the hard data in relation to each keyword that is generated. If I click on keyword ideas, you can see here that it has multiplied the keyword list. So we have puppy potty training, obedience training puppy, potty training adult, potty training senior, and so forth and so forth and so forth. It gives you the data of the keywords right now. So obviously, these are 3 keywords that out of all the mix that you created that are currently being searched and have data right now. It works very similar to whatever route you choose to go to, whether it's search volume or traffic estimates. We can play around with this a little more, so that's how this specific feature works, and the whole idea is to be creative. Think outside the box, and really think from a customer standpoint, what are they going to type? From that point, you will have a data to see how many searches are actually happening, or if how many searches are really not happening. Joining us today. Today, we'll be learning together how to speed up your WordPress site. Now, there are a lot of different advantages to speeding up your sites, such as having good user experience and getting better rankings with Google and other search engines and so on. So that's what we're going to be covering in this course. First things first, I want to mention that in speeding up your website, there are so many different variables and different elements to it, and we're just going to focus on a few. We're going to focus on the most important ones that will help you speed up your whole site, typically about anywhere from 50 to 75%. Remember, this is an ongoing process, and I want you to know that it's like getting a brand new car. You're going to need to constantly maintain your website's speed. Just remember that it takes baby steps to complete each and every one of these elements that we discuss in the course, so try not to get too overwhelmed. Get a few steps done first, move on, and go from there. So, before we move on to our next lesson, let's talk about what you need to have in hand. Obviously, this course will talk about WordPress sites, but you can take this information and the concepts that I'm giving you and apply to a non-WordPress site too. However, keep in mind I'm going to give you specifics in relation to WordPress and web hosting for WordPress. You'll also need to have a cPanel for hot link protection. Most hosts provide cPanel. If you're not using cPanel, then you most likely do have hot link protection on it. That is typically built in. Of course, you will also need to have an extra investment ready for possible content delivery networks and image optimization. So, let's move on to our next lesson, and I wish you a happy learning. Hello and welcome back. Today, we'll talk about the advantages of having a website that loads really fast. You already had a glimpse of why site speed is important, but to ensure that we're on the same page, let's discuss why you need to speed up your WordPress site now. Like I said earlier, there are 2 major factors at play here. First, we have user experience, and secondly, we have search engine ranking factors. Now, they're both very important, but in reality, you should focus on making sure that the user experience is the best it can be. If you can think about it, your users are who you are trying to impress, right? These are the visitors who you're trying to engage, and ultimately, that is who is going to take action, whether that's be signing up to your list, or buy your product, follow you, or become a fan of your brand. Ultimately, like I said, that is who you're trying to impress. At the end of the day, even though Google and the other search engines change their algorithm, if you look at a long-term view, giving that user the best experience possibly will actually impact your search engine ranking. At the end of the day, for Google and other search engines, their goal is to impress upon the person who is looking for your website. Visitors go to Google, they search, and that is their customer. You are not Google's customer. Visitors who perform search are their customers. But that is your customer as well. It's easy to get in the mindset of, oh, I just want to get rankings. I just want to get traffic. Then you get the traffic, and the person who's coming to your site isn't interested. They skip your site, and they go to somebody else's. So remember, if you impress upon them, you will impress Google. Now, if you think about it for just a second, as information becomes easily accessible within seconds, the human attention span actually gets shorter and shorter. If you think about back in the day, like decades ago, when we didn't have the internet, information was not easily accessible, but now it is easily accessible, and the demand for data increases. Therefore, people's patience becomes shorter. They're able to get information instantly with their smartphones and their tablets and all of that. The patience essentially becomes shorter, and as it becomes shorter, so does their patience for your site load speed. So, it just makes sense when you look at it that way. The longer your visitors stay, the lower your bounce rate is. Bounce rate is a technical term for prospects leaving your site. So, your goal at the end of the day is to get a lower bounce rate. For example, if somebody goes to Google and they type in a keyword phrase, let's say scuba diving, and they come to your website, they leave, and they go back to Google within seconds, that is what we call bounce rate. If you have a lot of people that do that, say at 100 people, you have 99 people that come to your website and within seconds leave and go back to Google, Google can detect this, and they that note of that. Imagine, for some weird reason, people are going to your site and leaving within seconds, so your site must not be relevant to them. That would be a logical conclusion for Google. Your site must not be what they're looking for. Therefore, Google says we're going to rank you lower. If a large amount of people are doing this thing, Google knows that your site is irrelevant. Perhaps it doesn't have good content, or even if it does, that is what they assume, or they assume the site loads slowly. So, if you think about it from that standpoint, and you adjust the user experience to be the best it can be, you'll essentially win the Google search engine game. That is how you kill two birds with one stone. In other words, win in both areas by really focusing on the user experience first, and then SEO and all that will come along the way. Even if you're not 100% being optimized to the SEO, you will win the game in the long run. Because when people will genuinely love your site, you win anyway. So, out of 100 people, let's say you may have 50 people who come and go, but you will have 50 people who stay for around 15 minutes to 30 minutes, or even to an hour. That tells Google you have a 50% bounce rate, and 50% of people are liking your content. If you have a lower bounce rate, let's say 10%, and then 90 out of 100 people are staying for a long period of time, that tells Google, hey, wait a minute, this site must be extremely relevant. People are obviously staying on the site for a long period of time, and therefore the site must be relevant. The site must be good. So Google will rank you higher. You see what I mean? So, now that you have a basic premise of what to look for and what to focus on, let's move on to our next lessons and find out what slows your site down. Hello, and welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about reasons why your site is slow. Now, to understand how to speed your site up, you really need to understand first and foremost what is slowing it down. There are hundreds and hundreds of different reasons. Our goal here is the 20-80 rule, meaning we're going to find the most common variables and focus on them. Basically, this means we'll perform little tweaks here and there to get the biggest impact. So, instead of trying to teach you hundreds of different variables, which would be time-consuming and very overwhelming, we'll look at little tweaks. What I advise you to do is implement each one of these step by step. However, each of these tweaks can take a good amount of time. Some of them will take less, some of them will take more, but some of these will make a huge impact on how fast your site loads. So, let's start. Number 1. Remember, your WordPress site has just way too many things in it. It's bloated with too much code, too many plugins, or too many pages, posts, images, and everything else. It just has way too much data in it. If you think about your computer, you know that if you add too many things onto your PC or your Mac computer, as an analogy here, then your computer will become slower and slower and slower. Same concept here as well. If your WordPress site has too many things, or your web hosting is just too slow, that's the number one reason why your site loads slow. When it comes hosting companies, this is your reason number 2. Sometimes the plan that you're under can actually impact how slow and how fast your site loads. Now, bear in mind that the reality is that WordPress sites in general, after they have become bloated, they use a lot of CPU and server resources. I want to be clear here to say that when you install WordPress by default, with nothing on it, it usually runs very fast. But later, when things are added to it like plugins, images, or other code, then WordPress site tends to slow down. Another issue is that the majority of websites are hosted on shared hosting, and we'll talk more about that later on. Because it is on shared hosting, you're essentially sharing a server with hundreds or more other people. Of course, they will impact your site. It's not necessarily that you're doing anything wrong. So for example, on shared hosting, if you have other people crashing the server, then you're affected as well. That simply means that your whole website will become slow, because with shared hosting, you're sharing the server with thousands of people. It's like you're sharing a house, essentially, with hundreds of other people, and you're all using the same kitchen or the same bathroom. And of course, we'll discuss this later on. Number 3, your images are way too big. One thing that a lot of us forget about is that different people have different internet speeds. Some are on slower speeds, and some are on faster speeds. Just because you have a faster speed doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else has a faster speed. So if it loads faster for you, it may not run fast for other people. There's something to bear in mind. If your images are way too big, then they need to be squeezed down. According to Google, images often take about 60% of total page weight. They take up too much room, and you need to size them down. This means that most websites are being slowed down because they have way too many images that are just taking too long to load. Nowadays, there are plugins, platforms, and software applications out there that will help you essentially speed up and optimize all of your images all at once without ever having to get into Photoshop. The next one is hot linking. Hot linking means displaying an image on a website by linking to the website hosting the image. The link gets the source data of the picture each time it is needed. This means somebody else could be linking to your site, your images, or your videos. What they're doing is sending traffic to those images and videos, and you'll be getting people that don't even know that they're your images, and they're just stealing your images. If that's the case, they're essentially using your bandwidth and your server resources, so be aware of that. The next thing is caching. Caching is essentially what your internet browser does when you visit sites on a regular basis. Your browser usually saves tons and tons of images and other files like HTML files, CSS files, and other files, so that when you go back to that website at a later date, it's already sitting on your computer, and therefore it loads super fast. You can do the same thing with WordPress. We'll discuss about that later on as well. The next thing that could help your speed is content delivery networks. What that means is, basically, let's say if you're using a hosting company from the USA, and if somebody is connecting to you from the other side of the world, let's say from the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, or Philippines, maybe Russia, or anywhere else, and they come to your website, their computer has to travel all the way through the internet to the USA server just to view your website. As you can imagine, that will literally slow things down to a halt, even if it runs super fast on your side, because let's say you are in the USA. Next to the server, your visitors have to go all the way over there, or vice versa. This really goes to slow things down, especially if your customer base is all over the world. So, content delivery networks, or in short, CDNs, are basically web hosting data centers that are positioned all over the world, in all the places that I mentioned just now. Let's say, for example, that you're using a CDN, and those servers are placed strategically all over the world close to those people. So when somebody goes to your website, instead of having to travel all the way back to USA, they essentially are going to go to the location that is nearest to them. That's what a CDN is all about. Those can be very, very powerful. We'll talk about the different types of CDNs out there in our next lessons. With that said, let's move on. Welcome back, guys. Today, we're going to talk about having too much in your site. By this, I mean there's just way too much data in your website to the point that it has become literally bloated. As I stated in the previous video, most WordPress sites take up a lot of resources after you've started to add a ton of WordPress plugins, images, pages, posts, and other demo content. Perhaps your WordPress theme is just bloated with tons of code too. In this case, you really want to ask yourself, do I really need this? In fact, a lot of times, it's super easy to go through your WordPress site and install a bunch of plugins because it makes your site user experience really amazing. And that's great, but you really need to ask yourself, do I really need this for every single item on your site? If you really haven't thought about this, Maybe you need to go back to your WordPress site, go through every single item, and perhaps delete some plugins. For the ones that you don't need, delete them and deactivate them. One thing to remember is, when you first installed a WordPress theme, it usually comes with a lot of demo content that has been built into it to show you what the site could potentially look like. That said, if you install the demo content and you just tweak it a little bit here and there, and you don't go back and delete all the demo content, then your site is going to load extremely slow. This often includes unnecessary images, posts, and pages that simply clog up your site. That is what's happening here. A lot of themes will come with tons and tons of amazing features that look amazing, and it could potentially increase your conversions, increase your sales, and all this great stuff. But at the end of the day, the more features and options there are in a theme, the more code there is. And the more code there is, the slower the site will run. Plugins are actually a huge variable that will slow down your site too, and they'll create security backdoors as well. Let me clarify in this here. WordPress itself, when you install it, is secure, but the plugins that you've installed are developed by third-party people and are not related to WordPress in any way. They are often programmed without regards to standards. Even though they could be programmed to their highest standards, they're not directly from WordPress. That's something to keep in mind. There is no real standard for plugins. It's almost like having a computer, whether it's a PC or Mac, and you're installing to your computer a software from different third parties instead of from Microsoft. And you don't know how they programmed it. You don't know if their programming standards are up to par. You don't know any of that. You just know that you install the software. That's it. Now, it's super easy to want to start installing tons of different plugins for your WordPress site because it can make the user experience a lot better. That's why you really need to ask yourself every time you install something, do I really need this? So, our recommendation to you is to try to stick with a maximum of 10 plugins per WordPress site, if that's possible. If you have to have more plugins, then you really need to think about making sure that your web hosting plan can actually take it. Make sure you've got enough speed, you got enough resources to be able to handle that. That's another reason why you need to have a good web hosting plan, which we'll talk about in just a minute. The number of images is fine, and we'll discuss how to squeeze them down. But when you get to a point where you have hundreds of images or even thousands of images, that can be a problem in itself. Also, when you create posts and pages, perhaps try to remove all the ones that you don't need first. This will usually speed up your site a little bit. We've seen websites that have had literally hundreds or even thousands of posts, and those sites often take a lot more resources to run. Having a lot of these kind of sites on shared hosting plans will slow your site down. So, go ahead and do a quick cleanup of your site now and really ask yourself, do I really need this? No matter whether it is a plugin or a page or an image. Hello and welcome to lesson number 5. We're going to talk about your web hosting today and the big question, is your web hosting slowing your WordPress site down? This is a big variable that a lot of times we don't even think about. Did you know that most web hosting setups are just not made for WordPress? This is especially true if you're paying for a shared web hosting plan, which is in my guess the majority of you. While it may be working now, if you do have a WordPress site and it is running fast, your site will slow down as you begin to grow. Let me explain this and help you better understand the idea. I'm going to give you an analogy here. Imagine if you lived in a house, but instead of having 1 or 2 roommates, you now had 100 or 200 roommates. The more roommates you have, the more chaotic it becomes. If you think about just adding 5 or 10 or 100 people, your life will turn into chaos, because now you have other people who may have different intentions that will affect you in some way. Now, think about it deeper. You barely have any room. You don't have room in the fridge to store your food. And if you have a few roommates that are causing problems, what happens? If you think about it, it often spreads to everybody else, right? If somebody decides, hey, let's go have a party, everybody is going to have a party. Everybody's going to jump in. As silly as this sounds, this is what shared hosting is like. On the flip side, you might have heard of a dedicated server. They tend to cost a lot more money, about $150 to $200 per month. But it's kind of like owning your house. And instead of having 100 roommates or even 2 roommates, you own that house. It's on your own rules, and whatever happens in that house happens in that house. But it's usually well worth that amount of money because you don't have to worry about others trying to mess up your life. Most of you will not be able to afford $150 to $200 a month, especially if you're starting out as a small business. The next big thing is what we call a VPS, or Virtual Private Server. Now, let me give you an example of what it is. This is like living in an apartment with your own roommates, and the apartment is split up into individual rooms. So you have your own room within the apartment housing. That's what a VPS, or a Virtual Private Server, is. Whatever happens in your own room affects your room. If you drop a plate, if you drop some milk, or if something bad happens in your room, it's in your room. You don't get affected by others. In a real virtual private server, it's basically like having a house where whenever somebody affects you in the other apartment, like maybe below you or above you, they're not going to affect you directly. So if they crash their server or they crash their website, that will not affect you. That's the beauty of a VPS, or Virtual Private Server. That said, not all VPSs are created equal either. In fact, there are a lot of web hosting companies out there that fully understand and capitalize in WordPress. The way they set up their memory, the hard drives, and the software is optimized for WordPress. It's kind of like going to a cardiologist for your heart problems versus to a general practitioner. The general practitioner may understand a little bit about your heart and how to help you, but the cardiologist is really going to know how to help you. So, yes, go to a specialized web host to get hosted because they understand your needs specifically. They understand WordPress and how it operates. That's why I say a lot of VPSs out there are not made for WordPress. Therefore, even if you get a good VPS, you might find that your site does not run fast. But if you find a VPS specialized in WordPress, you'll find that your WordPress site will actually run fast because they understand what affects what. They've taken all these variables into account and made it easier for you to make sure that your site is running fast. Let's discuss a few places that would be great for running your WordPress site. What you're looking for is managed WordPress hosting. The first one that we recommend is called WPEngine.com, and they specialize in WordPress. One thing I would mention here is, whenever you look at the pricing will cost a little bit more than a usual web host, but that's because they specialize in WordPress. So, when you get an account with them, they will set it up in a way so that it is WordPress friendly. Like I said before, most virtual private servers or dedicated servers are not really made for WordPress, so WPEngine.com is a good one. The next one is called WPXHosting.com. One thing to know is I would definitely not recommend places like HostGator.com. Even though a lot of these web hosting companies will say that they are WordPress friendly, a lot of times that's kind of like going to a general practitioner when you're having a heart problem. They're saying, well, we could offer you some advice for your heart, but in reality, you want to go to a specialist, right? These two web hosting companies specialize in WordPress, so I definitely can recommend these two for your WordPress site. Welcome back. We're going to talk about image optimization now. We touched base briefly on this earlier in the previous videos. Like I said, most WordPress sites have slow loading images, and not just WordPress sites, but websites in general, especially depending on where your visitor is located and how fast their internet connection is. You have to assume that your visitors don't have a fast internet speed because you want it to be as fast as possible. In this day and age, if you really think about it, you need to have images on your site because it creates more human engagement. You can't say, I'm not going to have any images, and just go with text, because otherwise, that would just be boring. One thing to keep in mind is, firstly, you want to make sure that you have the right file format for your images. For example, JPEG and PNG files are what you want to use when it comes to putting them on your blogs on a WordPress site. JPEGs and PNGs are file formats or images that are squeezed down easily and they are compressed for web use. GIFs, on the other hand, are basically animated images, but they are also compressed as well. Like I said, these files are very web friendly. However, you should remember, the more images you have, the more it adds up. But the good news is that now there are a number of tools and WordPress plugins that will actually help you achieve this without you having to buy Photoshop. squeeze them manually, and all of that. So let's go ahead and discuss them right now. I'm going to show it to you so that you're aware of what's out there. So, what you're looking for is a WordPress plugin that you can simply install into your WordPress site that will automate the process of optimizing and compressing your images. At the end of the day, you're going to be busy, so you're not going to have time to sit there and optimize. You need something that will kind of do it automatically every time you upload an image. So, we've tested several of them, and out of the ones that we've tested, we've come down to two. The one that we really like is called Smush Image Compression and Optimization. If you go to wordpress.org/plugins/wp-smushit, there are some free levels. There are some levels you pay for as well, but this is the one that we tested that out in actually. We have tested other ones out, and they've actually messed up our site, but we can definitely recommend this one. You can also go into your WordPress dashboard and do a search for WP Smushit or just Smush Image and look for the author. The author is going to be WPMU Dev. This one is good. Another one is called EWWW Image Optimizer, and that's another good one as well. Hi there. Today, let's talk about parasite protection. Parasites in the insect world include ticks and leeches. They find a host and suck their blood to survive. So essentially, in terms of websites, you are the host, and somebody out there is the parasite. It's the same in the digital world. You have other people who are linking to your images, your videos, and other big files. This is not to be confused with backlinks. These are not people who are linking to your site because your site is a good resource for them. Think instead the dark side of it. These are people who are linking to you because they're either claiming your images, your videos, and your big files as theirs. So, you might be thinking, why would somebody do that at all? You didn't authorize them. However, that's very common nowadays. If you think about it, if you've got images on your website, most likely Google has indexed your images into their Google image search engine, and somebody else has come along to the image on the search engine they found it. They look for an image, and they might think, oh, I like that image. I'm going to use that on my website. They might give you credit, which is great, but that's far and few. Most likely, they might think, well, I like this image. I'm going to link to it, and I'm going to put it on my web host. If you get too many of those, eventually, they begin to use your server resources that you pay for. They're not paying for it. You're paying for it. And then they use your videos and your bandwidth that you pay for. So, keeping that in mind, you're going to need to protect yourself. Like I said, what ends up happening is that you would be spending money on more web hosting resources. To protect yourself from this is by using what we call cPanel, which is a very popular web hosting panel that most web hosting companies use. Now, if you don't have cPanel, this might mean that most probably your web hosting company have rebranded cPanel to look like their own brand. So you should probably still have it. But if not, usually you could find the hot linking feature that I'm going to talk about in just a minute. Remember, sometimes hosting companies will have their own hot linking feature. Essentially, what it does is it disables people from becoming a parasite of your website and using your server resources. So, if your web hosting company doesn't use cPanel, they may have a hot linking feature. If they don't, you can always message them and say, hey, do you have a hot link protection? Now, let me show you step by step how to implement this. What you want to do is go ahead and log into your cPanel. If you need to do that, go ahead and pause the video and do that now. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that you are already in your cPanel. To get to hot link protection, all you need to do is simply scroll down and go to the security section here. We see hot link protection, so go ahead and click on that. If you look at it, it says hot link protection prevents other websites from directly linking to you. We don't need to enable it yet, but what we need to do is enter the URL to allow access. Let's say, for example, we use yourdomain.com. What you want to do is enter yourdomain.com, and then anytime yourdomain.com accesses the image, it's okay. However, anytime somebody else that is not yourdomain.com accesses your site, then they will be denied. What you want to do is put yourdomain.com here, and that should be it. But if you use www or you have HTTPS, you could add that as well. Hypothetically, that shouldn't really matter, but we'll do that here just to make sure. Remember, these are just variations of yourdomain.com. We can enter that here. And let's say that you want another site to have access. Let's say you have yourseconddomain.com. You can put it as https://yourseconddomain.com. Let's say, for example, that you have a sister site, and that sister site is okay to access your images. You want to enter that here. Basically, what you're telling the system is these domains are okay to access these images or whatever files that is. If you want to add, let's say, an MP4 file, if you have videos on your site and you only want these sites to access them, you want to make sure that you have the file formats inside here. Another thing is if there are zip files, downloadable zip files, you want to put zip in here. That means anytime somebody accesses any type of these file formats from these sites, it's okay. If they access it from elsewhere, for somebody else's site, the system is going to block them. Now, you have different choices. You can enter a redirect URL, so if somebody tried to access that image and they're doing so from a different site, then you can redirect them to another page or whatever page that you want. This can be good depending on what kind of business you're in. For example, if you're a photographer and you don't mind people licensing your images, then you can redirect them to maybe a page where you're trying to sell licensing to images. Obviously, if you're not a photographer in that case, then you wouldn't really need that. But that options is just there if you want to redirect people to a certain page. Once you're done, you just simply submit, and then you click enable, and you're good to go. Now, let's talk about WordPress caching. Caching, pronounced caching, is the process of storing data in a cache. A cache is a temporary storage area. For example, the files you automatically request by looking at a web page are stored on your hard disk in a cache subdirectory under the directory of your browser. As discussed earlier, the way caching works is your internet browser makes a copy of the items on the page, such as images, text, and other media elements. As you can imagine, the purpose of this is that the next time you visit a website, your browser will load the site at a much faster rate. You can do the same thing with your WordPress sites so that your returning visitors can experience the same thing. That way, if they visit it once, your site might load somewhat slowly, but the next time they visit it, the site will load really fast. Let's discuss some of the most popular caching plugins right now. When it comes to WordPress caching plugins, a lot of times you'll see that many people will say that W3 Total Cache is the biggest and the best plugin out there. We've had the chance to test this out, and yes, it does have good results. At the same time, it's very complex, and there are a lot of different settings within it, so there's somewhat of a learning curve in order to use this. The next great plugin for caching is WP Super Cache, and that is by Automatic. If you're not familiar with Automatic, this is the same company that has developed WordPress, so they are literally the biggest WordPress company because they invented WordPress. If you look through here, you'll see that a lot of people have installed it. Many reviews are really good. They say it has lightning fast speed and works really well, and that's the thing we like about Automatic. Whenever you use plugins from them, you're pretty much guaranteed that the plugin will run smoothly, and it will run effectively because they'll come out with tons and tons of updates simply because they invented WordPress. That's their reputation at stake. So, they have the best of the best knowledge as far as that goes. These are other caching plugins that focus on one area. Another plugin that we've actually tested and had really good results with is vipercache.com. You try it out as well. Alright, that's it for today. I will see you in our next lesson where we will talk about content delivery networks. Now we're going to talk about content delivery networks. We briefly talked about this earlier, but in most cases, when you run a website, you want to have a CDN or a content delivery network, especially if you're trying to reach visitors from around the world. As we mentioned earlier, if your web hosting server is in the United States, for example, and your prospect is in the United Kingdom, or Canada, or New Zealand, Then what happens is they have to connect all the way from their computer in the UK to the server in the USA. So if you're in the USA or you're in Russia and the server happens to be next to you, then it is going to load super fast for you. But just because it loads fast for you, if you're in the United States, does not mean that it can load super fast for everybody else. It's kind of like saying, okay, I'm going to go to the store and it's only going to take me 5 minutes, but you have a friend that is an hour away and it's going to take them literally an hour to get there, not speaking of traffic or other possible roadblocks that he's going to face. That's the main reason why you need content delivery network. So, take the same example. It's like if it takes you 5 minutes to get to the store and that store says, you know what? We're going to replicate ourselves and we're going to put a store near your friend's so that instead of going 1 hour away, he goes about 5 minutes away. That's going to be more convenient for your friend, right? That's the way a content delivery network works. They are a massive data center that they have many different servers placed all over the world, oftentimes in each city, in each country, and each state. So that's anyone from around the world can access your site at a much faster rate. The content delivery network will make a big difference. So if you change your web hosting to a specialized WordPress hosting and you add a content delivery network and you implement the elements that we talked about to make sure that your site is not too big, those few things there can actually speed up your whole site. So how CDN works is they deliver the content, in this case, to that person to the closest server to them. As we mentioned in this example, if you're using a CDN, it's going to show your website to that person through the closest server. So it really makes life a lot better for your visitors no matter where they are. There are many other benefits to using a CDN besides just being close. In addition to that is security. You can actually block out high-risk areas and high-risk IP addresses as well, because the CDN is so big and massive, a lot of times it will share data. If it finds that there's a hacker hacking another site, they'll share that data and make sure that they block that person when they try to access your site. So, there are a lot of other amazing benefits to having a CDN. There are several CDNs that you can use. You, of course, only need to have one. Let's discuss that now. There are two main content delivery networks that we highly recommend. There are many other ones, but you really have to think about it. You want to make sure that the company that you go with is big enough, so they have so many different servers around the world that you can use. These two are actually very user-friendly, and that is why we are recommending them. First is Cloudflare.com. We've used their service before. They have a free version, but in order to really make use of it and get the benefits, you really have to use the $20 per month upgrade. This is on a per domain basis. At the end of the day, if this seems a lot to many of you right now, I would say it will actually save you a lot of bandwidth. In fact, it'll protect you. It'll give you security that you need. Plus, if you have a global network and you're trying to reach as many people around the world as much as possible, it really is going to help you in the long run. The only case that you would never really need to have a CDN is if you're only a local business and you're simply trying to cater to people within a very small segment of a city and they're all next to the servers. That's the only time that you would not really use a CDN. We've used Cloudflare and it's worked very well. We highly recommend that. You don't really need the business version or the enterprise version unless you're getting a ton of traffic. Obviously, you can start with free version and see how that goes. Then as time goes on, upgrade to Pro if you can. Remember, if you already have a couple hundred to couple thousand visitors per month and you're running a site already, definitely go with the Pro version if possible. The next thing we recommend is Max CDN. That is maxcdn.com. As you can see, the price is already a little bit cheaper than Cloudflare. Max CDN is really good as well, and it's really hard to say whether Max CDN is better than Cloudflare or Cloudflare is better than Max CDN. At the end of the day, it really depends on your preference. So, you could start with Max CDN because there's only $9 a month, and they offer a good amount of benefits as well. You'll see that they limit you up to 1 terabyte. What that means is, unless you're using 1 terabyte, which is 1,000 gigabytes worth of bandwidth, you don't really need to move up. That's a nice thing about Max CDN. Their pricing definitely wins a little bit over Cloudflare. But as far as setup goes, for both of these, they are actually very easy to set up. They've made it very user-friendly, and that's one of the main reasons why we recommend them, on top of their huge network and being able to reach as many visitors as you can. Congratulations! I guess this is it. We've covered a lot in this course, and hopefully you've enjoyed it and will give us a thumbs up. But if there's something you're not happy with, please reach back to us via comments or discussion board, or you can even send us a private message. We'll be happy to assist. Congratulations once again. And now, I would like to wish good luck with your business. Goodbye for now.